Good morning, good morning. I'll stop the music and I will stop sharing my screen. Okay, so good morning, everyone. We will be starting today on time. We have a lot to cover. We already have more than 50 participants, which is great. So good morning, everyone. Very, very exciting. We are welcoming you for this professional development online study day offered by Impact Project. Impact stands for Inter-Mediterranean Peace and Collaboration. This is the Erasmus Plus virtual exchange project that is now run in several countries. Our coordinator is from Greece. We have him kindly agreed to give the session in this forum, in this online study day. So we have Greece, Slovenia, Italy, Israel, Morocco, and some other countries in the consortium. So we are preparing our students from our higher education institutions as well as youth organizations to participate in virtual exchanges, which is, international, intercultural collaboration between students, young people, professionals. For sure, we also need some professional development ourselves as instructors, as teachers. My name is Elena Mizrahi, by the way. I have a lot of new guests here. So probably not everyone knows me. So I'm Milena. Nice to meet you all. We have two amazing speakers today. The first speaker is going to be Sam Gravel from Germany. He's originally from the States, but he's now in Germany. He's a corporate teacher. He trains people to improve their English skills in the corporate setting, but he also offers professional development training in higher education institutions all over the world. He has been very active with his use of AI, of ChatGPT in his teaching. And I met Sam in one of the online webinar sessions, and I was blown away by his ideas of how he uses task-based pedagogy. It comes from the second language acquisition, task-based teaching, language teaching, TBLT approach. So I was convinced that we do have to share this pedagogy beyond the second language acquisition framework. So it's not only for English classes, it's actually going to be very, very interesting to all of you guys who are in higher education, lecturing, doing workshops, seminars, all kinds of courses, undergraduate courses, postgraduate courses. So task-based pedagogy is all about student-centered approach. And it turns out AI can be a great help for us to rethink how we teach and to apply this new approach in our teaching. So the first session is going to be about the use of AI in TBLT by Sam. And the second talk is going to be by Professor Konstantinos Petritis from Hellenic Mediterranean University in Greece. As I said, we have Hellenic Mediterranean University, Greece, leading this Impact International Virtual Exchange project funded by Erasmus Plus. So a lot to offer today. We have a lot of interesting ideas to share with all of you. And without further ado, I'm not going to talk for long because we have our speakers. If you have questions, please post your questions in the chat. You can also, introduce yourself, and maybe we have also guests from all over the world. By the way, we do, but we definitely invited all of the people who are in higher education industry, who are interested in internationalization, offering virtual exchanges, courses in English, EMI, English as a medium of instruction courses, and anyone interested in AI, just to improve your pedagogy, to get some ideas, some inspiration, hopefully from today's two sessions. So let's begin with Sam. Sam, are you ready? You can now share your screen. You're a co-host. So I'm happy to have you all here. So let's begin. Let's see, Sam, I can't hear you. Co-host. Yeah, okay, so wonderful. Happy to see you all here. Okay, so Sam is here.
There we go. Okay, we're good. We're up and live, right? Here we go. Okay. Hi, everybody. Thanks a lot for being here. Can you hear me now, Elena?
Yes, we can hear you now. Good morning again. Hi, hi. Wonderful.
All right. So let's start by being a little bit rebellious today, but I don't think this will upset anybody too much. I've crossed out the title, and that's because based on your wonderful contributions to our survey, I made a few adjustments, and we're still going to be covering a lot of the same ground. But I wanted to best serve you. And perhaps here's one really good transferable thing from my context in the kind of ESP or corporate world of training, where it's all about helping people do things more effectively. Everything we do is needs based. And everything I do is based on the needs of the people that I'm working with. And according to the survey results, most people are super curious and excited and a little bit reserved, perhaps, about this new AI world. So I thought the best use of our time today would be to primarily explore those elements, but of course there will be some TBLT there as well, right? And so you get a taste of TBLT and hopefully some inspiration about how to navigate this AI world. So hope that's okay, Elena. But I also thought this would illustrate a principle here of flexibility and adaptability, and hopefully that how this technology can actually help us to adapt things, not only for the people we're working with, but quickly, right? And still deliver good stuff. So let's hope that I can deliver on that promise today. So, all right. Let's get into just some very basics here. I'm going to be talking primarily about ChatGPT today. And if you don't know, ChatGPT is a large language model, right? Which is a type of machine learning artificial intelligence. And you can, if you're nervous about not being a technologically minded person, you can relax because you don't need to know a lot of specifics about the tech, right? You need to know how to use it, and you need to develop an understanding of how to use it if you want to get the most out of it. But you don't need to be some kind of tech genius. And I think that's one of the biggest misunderstandings that people have. But there are a couple things I'd like to clarify before I start so that the things that I show you make sense. Yeah. So first of all, the earlier versions of GPT, they'd been developed and kind of there for some time now. They're not brand new technology. However, they became publicly available last year. And just by chance, I think, and luck, I stumbled upon literally the day that this was released to the public and started creating and developing and seeing how it could really enhance the things that I was already doing. In a variety of ways. And that's, was giving some webinars, and that's when Elena and I met. So, but this was a really, I would say, compared to what is available now, quite a sort of basic version, I guess. Now we have GPT-4, and this is the one that you have to pay for. So if you use ChatGPT, then you have access to the earlier versions and then to these versions if you pay for them. Or, as you may have heard, you can use ChatGPT or GPT-4 rather, not ChatGPT-4, if you use Bing, right? So Bing is actually using that technology. It's the same thing through the Bing platform and the the browser instead of using it through the chat, as you will see today. I mostly use ChatGPT, right? It's got enhanced capabilities. It's much more advanced. It understands context better. And so it is the paid version that I use. And in addition to the paid version, you get access to all of these plugins and beta features and the more advanced things that are coming out. You can still do a lot of great things with the free version or with Bing. But I just wanted to kind of show you so you have a background of some of the plugins and tools that I'll be demonstrating today, so you know kind of the gist of it, and happy to answer questions later about those too. So, okay, so just to kind of guide you today, because I've decided to frame this as an A to Z of ChatGPT. And that's because when I started preparing these ideas, I thought, oh, there's 5 or 6 principles that I think are really important for getting the most out of this. And then I realized that list was growing. And I said, wait a minute, why not turn that into one of these A to Z lists, just to kind of give it a little bit of structure. And so we'll be going through mostly principles and possibilities, and then some practical elements as well, all mixed into this A to Z format. But just to kind of ground you in the practicalities, these are the things that I will be showing throughout. So if we ever get a little bit theoretical or we're talking about a principle, revisit this later, and I think you'll see how the practical elements tied in as well, right? And this is also for your reference later on to help you remember things. Okay, so let's get right into it. By the way, I'm not sure if you like the images we've seen so far, but these were all generated with the help of ChatGPT. So one of the things it's really good at, it's got DALL-E technology built in now, and you simply, with your words, prompt images. So I used, for example, the ideas of my slides. I prompted and said, give me an overview. This is the name of my talk. This is what it's about. And it gave me a selection of images, which is really fantastic because I have no sort of graphic design.
Which plugin do you use for that?
That's all. If you use ChatGPT 4, that's all automatically integrated now. So you don't even have to choose a plugin anymore. It's just integrated with, it's called DALL-E. That's the image generation tech. And that's now.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So our first letter of the day, I would add adaptability here based on what we discussed before about changing the theme slightly. But the first A that I had, that I've been thinking about, is autonomy. And this is, I think, just an important principle for adopting any tool, right? Now, I read a book a few years back that was very thought-provoking, and it said, program or be programmed, by this computer scientist and sort of philosopher called Douglas Rushkoff. And his idea was that everybody should learn how to be a programmer. And it wasn't because that's what'll get you jobs or anything like that. It was because of the idea that every technology, every programmed kind of technology has the biases and the sort of preconceptions of the people who programmed it. So the options that you get as a user of any program are, they're pre-programmed for you. So you actually have sort of the illusion of choice. But I would upgrade that today and say prompt or be prompted. And so I would say that this, in some sense, for many purposes, is the new programming. Learning how to interact with large language models is the new programming. And actually, you can literally program with this as well. You can use your words to make computer software. Just to plant that seed for you. We won't really talk about that today. But so the idea is that there are all these tools coming out based on this technology, particularly tools for educators, lesson planning tools, and all of these things, varying degrees of quality. But ultimately, many of them are based on these large language models. So you can think of the language models as the foundational technology that you can access just by talking to it and telling it what you want and asking it questions, right? Chat GPT. Or you can access a program that chooses what you're able to do. Now, I'm not saying all of these programs are bad, but what I'm saying is I think it's inherently limiting. And so if we are going to be using those programs, lesson planners and things like that, and curriculum programmers and whatever tools come out, that we should first develop a solid understanding of this technology first. And that gives us maximum control over things. So I guess one question I ask is, how much control over the entire process of teaching and planning does the tool give you? And how much control over the students, right? How much control of the learning? How much autonomy do they get? And that's anything we do education-wise, I think, right? Are we giving choice? Are we empowering them with tools, with materials, with lessons? So I think autonomy is a good one to consider. The next one is an extension of that, which is building your own tools. And as I mentioned, using this stuff is akin to programming. And we'll look at a couple of different examples of that today. But basically, what this means is using your language to train ChatGPT to do things for you, right? So embedding your expertise into ChatGPT, creating tools and prompts that you can share or adapt or extrapolate on, and use them as very powerful tools for you. We'll look at chatbots particularly, and then later on, we'll look at something really exciting that is actually just released to the public last week, which is the ability to create your own GPT. So basically, I'll show you a lot of things today that have previously required a lot of different clicking around, still massive time savers, but a lot of taking results from one prompt and incorporating them into the other. Well, now you can train a GPT, again, just by conversing with it, to do things for you in an integrated way. And I hope to clarify what I mean by that. So we have a quick look at a simple tool, right? So speaking of task-based language teaching, task-based language teaching is a particular methodology and approach to language teaching. And there are a lot of scholars and a lot of thoughts that go into TBLT. But I experimented with just creating a very simple tool that a teacher could use, that I could use to generate tasks that adhere to principles of TBLT. And so we'll have a look at how this is done and what I mean by building a tool and sharing a tool. And so if I just open the link, right, and this is what is known as a shared prompt, a shared chat.
בוקר טוב, אני מצטערת, אני מתקשרת בשעות הבוקר, אני יודעת שבדרך כלל...
Could we make sure our microphones are muted, please? Thank you. So what we have here, as you can see, is this is a chat, a pre-made chat, right? And so anybody can actually pick up from here and start using this to create tasks, simple versions of tasks. And so you don't need to read all these details, but what I've done here is embedded knowledge about what TBLT is into this prompt to sort of teach the technology what I'm looking for. So I used guiding questions about what makes a task. So if I were training teachers as to how to design tasks, these would be questions that they consider. So I'm using those to teach ChatGPT, right? I've got task types. According to one ChatGPT practitioner and scholar, these are good ways for teachers to think about different things that count as language teaching tasks. And I put a lot of examples in. So lots and lots of examples of what tasks are. And then I added more information from the literature about what tasks are and aren't, and said, use all of the above to create an engaging series of tasks or task modules for particular topics. Each module should begin with input tasks and move gradually towards output tasks. And that is also something from the TBLT literature. You don't really need to know that, right? You can mostly play with the idea of what is good pedagogy in your field, right, in your expertise, and how might you be able to embed that into this to do productive things for you, to create materials and create ideas for you. So ChatGPT says, absolutely, I'm ready. Before we proceed, could you please provide the topic, right? So I've essentially made a program in ChatGPT. Now, anybody can click on this if they have ChatGPT, open it up. Okay, that didn't work. Oh, that would happen, right? That the link would not open at the moment. Let's try it again. Okay, lots of updates. So this is not opening right now, but I know that it is theoretically possible to open up. And you simply, let's see, task module. Let's see if I can open it from here, perhaps. No, okay. So not going to work at the moment, but please try yourself later. You can produce tasks for whatever reason. ChatGPT is going through a lot of updates at the moment, and it didn't open the link that I wanted it to. So maybe if I copy and paste it, perhaps. Okay, let's hope the other ones will show. So building your own tools, right? And I'll show another example of this later as well, building things that ChatGPT can do for you based on the knowledge and expertise in your field. The C stands for collaborative creativity, right? It's debatable whether these things are creative or not. But what I've experienced is this really powerful potential to combine the two. Right, to combine our intuition with AI's ability to process data, create endless examples of things, and make abstract ideas complete, right, concrete, right? So I often will get an idea of something and how I'd like to think about it or use it, And by speaking with ChatGPT, I get feedback and it helps me make it more concrete, right? And so we'll look at an example of that with the next slide, an actual conversation and how this can work. I want to show you, let's hope this one will open. An example. Yep. Oh, okay, so let's see if, here is a task that I created with ChatGPT, right? Now, this is a task where participants or learners work together to, they're basically given information and they're responsible for hiring somebody, right? So in TBLT, people are working typically on real world things, right? So we're not teaching them vocabulary and grammar and pieces of language and hoping they do things. We're starting with interaction. And the idea is that they will learn things by doing and through the feedback that their teacher gives to them. And I think this is particularly interesting also for EMI, because a lot of the quality, if people feel not so confident with their own language abilities, which I know is a real concern in EMI, or their pedagogical skills. Well, one thing that TBLT can help us do is build in the language that is required into the tasks so that learners are at least getting a ton of good exposure to language. And then we'll look at how ChatGPT could provide feedback. So here's a task created by ChatGPT or with ChatGPT's support based on an idea that I had. And so what you see here is they have to work together. People will read these cover letters and pick up what information is embedded in the cover letters and calculate points working together. It's an exchange of information and they have to decide who they're going to invite to the job interview. So there's a lot of good quality language built in here. Now we can have a look at how ChatGPT helped me do this in about 10 minutes. And so let's hope for the best that this chat will share. Okay, so this is what the chat looks like. This was actually me speaking to ChatGPT, and I'll demonstrate that for you as well. I said, create a jigsaw task, which is a task where information is exchanged, to solve a problem, in which business English students work together to hire a marketing manager. There should be 5 candidates, a scoring system, and 5 cover letters in which they describe the various criteria. They read. So as you can see here, if you think about this, I had a vague idea of how this would go, right? And that's a really good start, because if you have a kind of an idea of what you're looking for, you get from start to finish more quickly. You can also just use ChatGPT for ideation if you have no idea what to do. And we'll see examples of that as well. So ChatGPT's immediate answer is, okay, this is the steps. This is what we need to go through, right? And it gave me an overview of the kinds of things that I was looking for. And one of the principles we'll look at as well is not accepting the first draft. And so many people think this is done. It's never right away. You get ideas and then you go back and forth, right? And so I wasn't exactly happy with what ChatGPT produced. So I said, please provide a clear scoring rubric based on the criteria. And there should be a clear winner, right? And a little bit more back and forth on, and this, by the way, looks like longer than it was because this is instant with ChatGPT. So this is maybe 10 or 15 minutes of giving it input, looking at it, saying, no, fix it this way, and still a lot quicker than creating a task like this from scratch. I still had some more feedback for it. I said, okay, it's impossible for students to compare these. And in the end, I got something that I was happy with. And here's an interesting thing as well. Once I was happy with the results after a bit of feedback to my assistant, I had ChatGPT check to see who the winner was, right? I wanted to make sure that the problem was solvable. So I asked ChatGPT, hey, solve the problem for me. And it went and did. Then I used that information to provide an answer key.
Could you please enlarge the screen a little bit?
Yeah, I can try to zoom in a bit. So is that better?
Much better, thanks.
Great, yeah. And these will be available as well, because I know this is obviously, we're not going to read all this text now, but I will put these in the slides and people can, well, they're already in the slides, people can have a more detailed look later on. So, anyway, so here's a cool thing to think. Once you create something with ChatGPT, whether it's a project outline or a task or anything that is particularly good and useful and solid, well, consider that you have just taught ChatGPT how to do something. And so you can just say, so what we've just done, right, is this. And in language teaching, information gaps are great because they require that students interact, right? So it kind of knows what it did, but I'm reinforcing why I liked this. And then I said, using the example above as inspiration, create a list of 50 ideas of information gap activities for English learners on a variety of topics, right? Now, if anybody has experience with TBLT in any sort, one of the sort of bottlenecks and roadblocks traditionally has been it can be very time consuming to design these types of tasks and create them. And here we have 50 ideas. And not all of them are relevant to all participants, to all students, but these all embed the principles of this. And so any of these that catch my attention, I can simply then say, okay, let's develop number 10 together and go to the process that I just did. So you can continue this thread to continue to develop these kinds of tasks. I mean, you have tons of examples here. And I was very vague. I said, give me 50 tasks. I could have said, give me 50 tasks that work for an economics student or for an accounting context in business. So you can be more specific as well. But sometimes you just want to be general just to generate tons of ideas, right? And so it's an interesting experience because you're using this to help you generate ideas, but it's not doing things for you in the sense that you're driving the process. And I think that's an important part of it. I'm not saying, give me a lesson plan. I'm saying, I want this, help me flesh it out, give me inspiration, give me ideas. And I think it can really speed up the process of creating good and relevant materials. And so that can be checked out if you're interested. So there you go, creating something from vague idea to concrete thing, and then creating more things based off of that kind of exciting stuff. This I find a very important principle, and that's to embrace dialogue as, I would say, the way that the internet is moving. I know it's a big statement, but we went from searching the web, searching the web, looking for things. And I think a lot of people approach ChatGPT in that way. And then that's why they don't get the results that they want, because they think it's like a suppository of information. Depository of information, right? And where they are just searching for things and searching for facts, but it's actually, that's not the way that it works, right? So we're not searching and retrieving when we use ChatGPT. And then we quickly moved into prompting, and you probably heard people say prompt engineering, and here's how to get a great prompt, and here's 50 things your prompt needs to include. I was always skeptical of that because even in the beginning, I saw the potential of ChatGPT to react to you. And so you can clarify through conversation the kinds of things that you want. But that became very clear that that was the case when we moved into the more advanced version like GPT-4. It's not that prompting is not important. It's that literally just ask and see what happens. But I think that this is very interesting for education and for learning in general, because I think there's something really natural about learning through conversation. And I think that this opens up a world of possibilities where not only do we interact with this thing via dialogue to create things, but students can as well. And so we can learn, students can learn, we can plan, things can become very cohesive and holistic. And in fact, a lot of my, let's say, course and lesson planning these days happens when I am out walking around. And I would like to demonstrate for you what that can look like. So let's consider what I'm about to show you is a combined example of, let's call it pondering on ideas, personal development-wise, and then also creating materials together. Hey, so I've been reading a bit lately about Robert Cialdini's Principles of Persuasion, and I find that really fascinating. As a freelancer and entrepreneur myself, I'm trying to get my head around them. I was wondering if you could give me a quick overview of the principles as applied to my context, which is somebody who, I sell language courses, and I design them. So basically, I'm like a teacherpreneur, trying to design and sell courses that are innovative and sort of, you might call them 21st century approaches. Um, do you have any ideas of how I might think about these principles through my context? By the way, before we hear the result here, this is the app, the iPhone app for ChatGPT, which now includes the voice capabilities that you are about to hear. And so I was going to do this as a live demo, but I decided it'd be safer to record it because you know how technology can be. So this is me sitting on the couch doing it, but this is often done while I'm out and about walking around.
Absolutely. It's wonderful that you're exploring Cialdini's principles to enhance your entrepreneurial journey. Let me help you relate these principles to selling your language courses.
Can you hear that, Elena?
Yeah, it's not loud, but we can hear it.
If you
Okay.
can turn it up a bit.
Firstly, the
Yeah, my
principles
volume's all the way up, unfortunately.
that people feel obligated to return favors. For your courses, you
But I'll just skip a bit here just to kind of demonstrate something. So she explains to me how I can, so I'm taking these ideas, right? It's from a well-known book on psychology and these concepts I'm familiar with. And she explains to me in a tailored way how they could be relevant to me, right? So we might think about how people can interact with this, to interact with this in a way that is personalized for them. I then got ideas and I said, hey, this would be interesting for my managers. I have a group of managers who I train who are working on their persuasive capabilities in English. And so then I asked her to translate it to that context to help me think about it in that way. So they partly need to motivate their own employees to do things, and they partly need to sort of be able to promote their ideas to other parts of the company, right? So to the development department and things like that, to kind of make, they just need to be persuasive all around, and they're trying to enhance their sort of communication skills in English. So I'd really like to sort of introduce these principles to them in an interactive and task-based way.
tasks that allow them to practice each principle in a business context. For example, for reciprocity, you could create a role play where they offer helpful insights or support to another department, practicing how they could do this in English. For commitment and consistency, they could practice making and following through on commitments in a professional setting, like leading a project or initiative. Social proof could involve tasks where they practice leveraging the success of their projects.
So she's giving me some great ideas about how these concepts from the psychology of persuasion would now apply to them. And then the last thing I do is say, hey, let's create that as a piece of material where it's a short text for each person in the group that they will then read and be be responsible for relaying that information to their colleagues so that we can build a lesson out of it.
That sounds like a plan. I'll prepare a Word document with the overviews of each principle tailored to the context of a software development manager, making sure it's well formatted and visually appealing.
Perfect. All right, sounds good. Okay, so again, a little bit contrived because I did this for the sake of the demo, but it is reflective of the typical process that I would go through, which could just be talking about ideas. It might be, hey, help me think about this presentation that I'm planning. And then sort of moving from abstract through conversation to the more concrete, to actually ending up creating something, right? So before I show you the finished product that was there when I turned my computer on, I just, at least for me, in my experience, conversing is a very natural way to learn. I think there's a lot of good evidence of that as well, that we learn through dialogue and through conversation. And we are now moving towards a world where we could all potentially have our own tailored private tutor in our pockets, basically. And we'll explore some ideas of how that can help both teachers and students as well, more specifically, and how combining some of these ideas I've mentioned, we can create, for example, personalized tutors, right? I think it also opens up the world to us to think more flexibly about learning, and there's no reason to necessarily be bound to one particular place all of the time, or to be sitting at a computer all of the time, right? It actually opens up other possibilities to us in that way. I love not having to sit there and work on documents and things like that. And as you'll see in a moment, ChatGPT actually prepared that for me, and it was ready to download when I returned, or when I opened my computer, basically, right? So this is what that looked like. And so when I turned my computer on, great news, the document is ready. You can download it at this link. So again, never accepting the first draft, usually. It's usually just a draft, right? I said, can you also, I had to make a small change. And then you can see here, this was the tailored little text that it produced for me based on what I wanted, of explaining these principles and tailoring it to the particular people. It then ended up being a wonderful experience where the managers read them, explained them to each other, discussed the principles, and then we went on to talk about applying them to their various contexts. And it was a very, what we call a materials light lesson, right? So started with a conversation with my phone, printed this, and didn't even print it out, created this instantly, sent out the text, copy and paste, and it was all just a few minutes of work, and it was very insightful. So that is thinking about the power of dialogue. Okay, and there's going to be a lot of repetition here, and as educators, that's great for learning. So a lot of these things are going to come back in different ways throughout our discussion today. And I think that will actually be beneficial. So we'll see dialogue again. But moving along to another very common topic, ethics, right? A lot of people had questions. A lot of people have questions about ethics, right? And thought this would be an interesting way to go about looking at it. And a little bit of ideation here. Create an acronym for the word ethics for how teachers can ensure ethical use of AI, including privacy, plagiarism, and other important ethical issues, right? Just to see what happens, right? I don't have to take any of this as, set in stone, but it's always better than starting with a blank screen. And plus I have my own ideas about ethics, so I can see how those resonate and connect with this. And so the first draft, I thought, well, that's pretty good, right? Educate students and peers, transparency and how they work and their potential biases, right? And so what I'm trying to do here is be transparent with you about how I've used this tech to generate the images for this presentation, or to generate certain ideas. With my students and with trainees and whoever I'm working with, I'm always very open about the use of AI. And I think that kind of transparency is actually one really good starting point. Trying to create a culture of honesty around it. Integrity, right? How you use people's data. That's a big issue as well. A lot of the people that I work with have very sensitive data. They're working with companies and financial information. I never put that into ChatGPT. Despite the company saying that if you opt out of data collection, it's a tech company, right? And so think about things like sensitive information. I'm always aware of that stuff. What I might do is just change some details, take out numbers and names and things, and then use emails and documents of my learners as a base, but I will be sure to take out sensitive data. Critical thinking, of course. And then the S, safeguard against plagiarism. Now that I didn't accept, because studies show that those things do not work. They don't work. And despite people trying to sell them and promote them, and some people talking about using them, the accuracy is very low, something like 30% of whether or not people used AI to do things. So we don't really have the technology, despite what people say, to use tech to safeguard against plagiarism. So I said, let's change the S to show your work, since AI checking tools have proven not to work, right? Show your work means being transparent and showing evidence of AI contributions, for example, shared chats. And then it went on to revise this for me. And I think this is nowhere near a full explanation of this conversation. And in my context personally, there's not that much of an ethical concern. There's no such thing as cheating in my context, I've often said, right? Because I'm helping people to do jobs more effectively and do tasks more effectively in English. But I think this is a good starting point. It's a decent overview and important things to consider. I think organizations, departments, teachers, classes are all going to have to give this serious thought about their own context. Now, do you think this is plagiarism? Using ChatGPT to come up with this acronym, is this plagiarism? Or is this cheating in some way? Is this ethically sound? I'm not saying there's a correct answer to that. Somebody raised their hand. Constant. Yeah. Do you have a thought?
To answer your question, because you asked a question, I think that it's ethical since you combine, as you said at the beginning, your ideas, your creativity, and the machine just tailor and make it better. So facilitates to engineer more inspiring responses, and the product is yours, but it's more powered with new ideas and terms from the machine. So I think that's ethical.
Great. Exactly. So that's exactly, I think, I mean, that's how I think about it as well. And to illustrate the transparency, right? I've told you that I use ChatGPT to do this. So there's that ethical aspect. The idea came from me, right? And then that I didn't blindly accept what I got, but I critically evaluated it and said, I don't like the last one, right? And I think that's an ethical component as well, as being part of the process, right? And saying, okay, there we go. So there's a good, I mean, even this A to Z thing, I did in a similar way, where I said, I had a conversation with ChatGPT and said, here's what I'm thinking about. These are all my ideas. Help me formulate those into A to Z, And it produced something that was like maybe 40% of the way there, and I had to go and modify everything. It just gave me the letters, and I said, no, that's not right, but it's a much better starting point. And it was all based on my ideas, not about things that people were already saying, but on my understanding and applications of AI. So interesting way to consider ethics, and I hope that it gives you some thought for giving it some thought yourself, and maybe we can share more ideas on that later if people have some. And also to illustrate some interesting capacities of ChatGPT here. Okay, moving along through our alphabet. To make sure I'm zoomed out. Feedback and feed forward. And so there were some questions about using ChatGPT or this kind of technology to give feedback to students, right? And I've had some really interesting experiences with that. And I think that's a fantastic and promising direction that is going to be very useful for educators in different ways. Feed forward, this often comes from like management speak more than anything, but the concept is, okay, you give feedback on what was done. We know that aids in learning in all these different various ways, but feed forward is, can we take that data? Can we extract from that and then decide what comes next and tailor what comes next? And I think we've always done that to some degree manually, but we're going to end up with a lot more flexibility here for creating learning experiences that are not only based on the needs and the wants and the wishes of the people who are there, but also adapted and relevant, quickly produced based on what happened last time. And so we can have a look at that in practice. So if we go back to our job, I transcribed that task that I showed you before in the creativity section. And so this is another like privacy issue, but if you have the capacity and the permission to transcribe a lecture, a class, a meeting, how rich with data is that? I mean, it's unbelievable. You can collect what is actually happening and then start to dissect it and evaluate it, right? So I use something called otter.ai, which is just an app that will do transcriptions. It's kind of an AI enhanced app because what it will do is record the people, and then you can interact with the transcript. You can get notes based on the transcript. You put the names of the people, and then it will automatically recognize. So it'll start by saying person 1, person 2, person 3. So it differentiates the voices, right? And then I type in person 1 is Anna, person 2 is Mike, and then Claudia, and then it automatically does the whole conversation. So it's nicely transcribed, but you could do any sort of transcription. You know, most video platforms have the capacity, Zoom and Teams, right? So thinking about recording it, using that as the data, and then using that transcript, analyzing that with ChatGPT based on the criteria that you provide, and then creating tailored feedback and ideating for future sessions, right? So you can see I have a transcript of some intermediate English learners completing this task, right? Which is rich with information about the way they worked together, about potential language issues I might give feedback on. So there's a lot there, but you know, I work with 100 people every week. I can't myself go through and give that kind of attention. So let's use ChatGPT to help that process. I uploaded the transcript, of course, with the permission of the students. It said, help me analyze this transcript, provide a sheet about what the task was, provide individualized language feedback for participants, and suggest follow-up tasks that develop in practice the skills that could still be developed and as identified in the transcript, right? And that's fairly low resolution. That's actually not a lot of input there. You could be much more detailed. So you can upload, whether it's a transcript or other kinds of data, the more you can be very specific. Maybe you have very specific things that you're evaluating. You can teach the technology to evaluate in the way that you want it to.
Like a reverse engineering of the original task.
Exactly. Yeah. And a lot of, actually, that's such a good way to put it, because a lot of this is reverse engineering, and a lot of making task-based stuff is reverse engineering too, because you're always starting at the end. What do I want them to do? Working backwards, step by step to where they are now. And the technology is there for the ride as well. So uploaded the document, and then can you export the feedback to a Word document? The language and feedback suggested follow-up tasks have been compiled into a Word document. You can download it at the link below. And it looks a little bit like this. Language feedback and follow-up tasks, right? And I could, again, push on this. I could say, I want more detail, I want less detail, but quite interesting what it provided, right? And I could ask for more details, what were Anna's errors more particularly, and then suggested follow-up tasks, right? It gave me ideas for follow-ups. So just based on this little bit of information and the transcript, I got this, right? So you could think, oh, could I give personalized feedback to everybody this way? You can certainly also upload written work and help analyze, and that's a trickier one. There's an ethical component there as well. But for certain written tasks, you know, I've heard a lot of good things about teachers using this with a lot of back and forth, and basically training ChatGPT to do the grading or to help grading of some written work. And that can certainly be done with exams as well, if you import the data into ChatGPT. So very powerful data analyzer. That is the takeaway here, I think, as well, right? So feedback and feed forward, analyze data, and help you be adaptive and responsive and teaching based on the real and emergent sort of needs and issues that are coming up. Let's do a moment of review here. What term, and anybody can shout this out if you want, it's fine. What do you think goes in this gap here? There's the same word goes in each gap, same term rather. Maybe people can type it into the chat, and then Elena, you could just kind of maybe, because I can't see the chat because of the way I have to share this. Maybe Elena, you could tell me what people are.
Looking at the chat, there are some options. AI, LLM, chatbot, humans.
Oh,
This is an astonishing entity. Yeah.
all right. Well, somebody is on to me because yes, most people say, of course, Chat GPT, this is all the discussion today, right? It's faulty, all of these different things. It has problems, right? A lot of it is just people's expectations of what it is and isn't, and that will come up for later on today as well. But I think it's also important to remember this, that we are biased and flawed, and we jump to conclusions. And I mean, you know, who's better at giving feedback at the end of a long, long day? A tired teacher, or something that has been trained to deliver a very specific type of feedback, right? And I'm not saying that the answer is clear for every case, but it's important to know that we have weaknesses, and so does the technology. And the idea is the synergy between them, right? And all of these things, whether it's creating, whether it's the dialogue, it's knowing what we're good at and what we're not, right? I'm not good at creating 100 ideas on the spot of something. My brain doesn't work that way, and I don't think most other people's do. I'm not good at producing these kind of really epic images that we see here, and ChatGPT is really good at that, right? And so that's a consideration, is the sort of fallibility, right? Recognizing the limitations and errors, synergizing to counteract the weaknesses, and cross-checking the AI suggestions with our own expertise. Again, reiterating important points here, I think, right? So that was good that somebody actually said humans. You got it. You got my, I thought I was going to trick everybody, but I guess not. Humans are faulty too. So, okay, goal orientation. This I've always thought with any technology. I'm actually not an ed tech guy, even though I'm here talking to you about AI. I've been to entire conferences before about technology and business English teaching in different contexts and things like that. And it was like, you need to use this technology because it's the technology that people are using now. Or you need to use, and I always just, those answers never sat well with me, those ideas, because, you know, I do a type of teaching sometimes that is known as teaching unplugged, or dogma English language teaching. And if you're not familiar with it, it's basically the idea of you go into a room with people and you use very minimal external resources, and everything you do is based off of what comes up in the class, and you skillfully maneuver the conversation so that people are talking about things they care about, and all of the material in some sense is mostly immaterial. And to be honest with you, that's still my favorite way to teach, right? But that's not possible in a lot of contexts and for a lot of different reasons. It's not that easy to do, or sometimes people have more specific needs that require more materials. So the idea is, though, somebody already mentioned working backwards, starting with the end in mind and working backwards. If we really are clear about the outcomes and the goals that we have for people, then we become very clear about what the tool, how the tool can help us, right? So just like the material, we choose the tool based on the goals that we have. And it seems like common sense and maybe not even worth saying, but I think it is, because a lot of people in forums I see saying, how can I use ChatGPT for this? And I think it's kind of the wrong approach, right? There's a subtle difference there, but an important difference is we kind of have to know where we want to go. And that's where the human side really shines. And there's a professor and sort of SLA, second language acquisition scholar. And she said, you know, Florencia Henshaw, and she said, you don't look at a keyboard and ask what you can do with the different letters. And I love that analogy. I think that's really nice. I don't look down and say, okay, what can I do with the S and the T? And no, I type and then I choose the letters that I need, right? And I think that can help us get our heads around a world where there's seemingly endless tools that we can use for stuff. And I'll show some more ways that I think about reducing down the amount of choice as well, right? So goal orientation, starting reverse engineering, as you already said. Great. Let's get a little bit less serious for a moment. Goal orientation. Let's just have some fun once in a while. And honestly, did you know that a lot of our tech, our computing power, our innovation came from like video game design and development, right? And that's another a bit of a stretch, but kind of an example of this as well, is we don't always make progress just by being super serious and being goal-oriented and stuff. Sometimes we just experiment, have a laugh, and might have some insights from that translate into our work. And here's one small example of that. I had a private student who's a hairdresser, and I was just experimenting, right? And this could be done now with chat or typing. And I said, okay, I just arrived as a haircut. Let's role play the process, but instead of inputting the answers, give me choices, because she's low level, right? And so in language teaching, people don't need to be speaking and producing language the whole time. Believe it or not, at lower levels, you sometimes just want them to get lots and lots of exposure to input. But I said 2 of the responses should be reasonable and 2 should be inappropriate, right? And I spelled inappropriate horribly wrong, and it's still, I just made a typing error there. So, hi there, welcome to our salon. How can I help you today? So I'd like a trim and a clean up the sides. Can you give me a stylish fade? Do you think you can make me look like a unicorn? I don't need a haircut. I'm here to investigate the secret alien base. And I thought that was hilarious, and it's funny, like it comes up with funny stuff too. So you can incorporate fun and you can just enjoy the process. And it also gives you a little bit of insight and it makes you wonder a bit about this technology, right? If it's really just predicting the next word, or it's a glorified, not autocorrect, but what your phone does, autocomplete, right? Well, this kind of thing makes you wonder a little bit more, right? And there's a lot more mystery here than we think, because I had a good laugh at this. I don't know about you, but I thought this was really funny. And so you can have a lot of fun with this stuff as well. And just experimenting in that way can also open up some possibilities. By the way, I used ChatGPT to create a whole sort of tailored course to help this hairdresser work more effectively with her customers in English, which was a trick for her, because she mostly works with German customers. Occasionally tourists and English speakers come in. So very helpful. Okay. The next letter is I for iteration. And I think I've already demonstrated this a little bit. And so iteration, a procedure in which the repetition of a sequence of operations, blah, 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 basically always taking what you get as the starting point to go to the next step, right? And we're not really programmed to iterate based on our experience with what search is, right? So we've all been using search engines since, I don't know, 2000 or so, right? And that is not a very iterative process. It's more of a look, okay, try again, look again. And I think that trains us to interact with the internet in a particular way. But to think back to dialogue and conversation, it's always back and forth. And so an example of iteration, although I've already shown a couple about how I go back and forth when developing materials, I took some of the survey information that you all graciously provided and said, summarize these as 10 questions that capture the meaning of all of them. Right? Because you all had all these wonderful questions and things that you wanted to take away. So I just copy and pasted it in to ChatGPT, although you could also upload it as a document or as an Excel file or something. And it helped me reduce them. So the step 1 was reducing them. And it gave me 10 insights, right? To address your questions on integrating AI into education, here are some insights. So this actually used web search to find what is being said now, what other sources are saying now, right? So a lot of this inaccuracy stuff with ChatGPT is going away in some way because it is now integrated with the web naturally. And so it found and these are references I could click on and see what people are saying. I wasn't particularly inspired by any of these. And so the next step of my iterative process said, can you answer these questions yourself without browsing the web? And in this case, I thought I would get more interesting insight from something trained on endless amounts of data that might draw more interesting connections than the things that were already being said. Plus, I don't really have an interest in telling people things that they can watch on another YouTube video somewhere. And then I found these ideas more insightful, actually, in this case, right? So you can ask ChatGPT or you can ask it to browse the web. Certainly, here are some informed responses to these questions. So again, based on the input that you provided. I liked number 3. I saw that being really useful. I said, utilizing these tools and tutoring, answering student queries. And I said, okay, let's explore that. So the next step of the iterative process, right, was, okay, give me some ideas for number 3, right? And we got some concrete ideas for number 3. All of these things that could potentially, and we could just keep going and say, oh, I like that. Give me a real concrete, how do I make this work, right? So we've gone from a lot of ideas to takeaways to practicality here. And we could just say the next step is, okay, help me create a customized learning experience, right? So that's to demonstrate iteration as well, right? It's not search and retrieve, and we have to break that habit. And a lot of questions I get can be answered by just keep going, go to the next step, say what you don't like and get the feedback, right? I think it's just a way of thinking and a habit that we have to kind of break. Like this is dialogical, right? So we kept getting more specific and we were almost there. And I said, I have a student who's studying economics in English who struggles to understand lectures. So I started to bring in some student needs. How can I customize some learning experiences with ChatGPT? Give me 5 concrete examples. So back to this ideation and getting an idea. Oh, that gives me an idea, ChatGPT, try this. I'm tying some things together here, and I end up with these ideas, which ChatGPT can help with, right? And back to the voice thing too, one interesting thing is I can say, create a personalized lecture for me on this macroeconomics course, something along those lines, and it will do that, right? And I can make it more specific as well with more specific input. So that is iteration, right? I have a second I because I couldn't find elsewhere to put this, and I wanted to show you this, integration with other tools. So what I did was I had created a list of words for my accountants because I work with a lot of accountants in a corporate context. And I wanted to provide like a key list of vocabulary. So I asked ChatGPT, I said, okay, actually I can't, these are either accountants or I created it, whatever, it's economics or accounting or both. And I took these terms and then I said, give me this list, but give it to me with a comma between the word and the definition, right? And the reason is that ChatGPT can export as many different formats. It can do a table, it can do with a colon, it could do it as a document. It'll do basically whatever you want, just try. But the comma was for Quizlet, the program Quizlet, which is a flashcard study application. And so I could easily create a set of 50 words, specific words, look them over, make sure everything's okay, and then export them to Quizlet. And then people have an instant study set based on a link, and they can practice with an app or practice the cards. But personally for me, and I don't know about you and your language learning experiences, but the kind of rote practice of recall, it was never that enjoyable for me. I never caught my attention, and I know it's important. I know it's an important principle of vocabulary learning, right? That you have to you have to recall words, and you have to have spaced repetition in this sort of thing. But what's really exciting now is to go back to dialogue. Once again, we can now practice this stuff through conversation. So I could easily put this into ChatGPT and prompt ChatGPT to say, can we practice these words in this specific way? Can you quiz me on them? Can you give me examples? Just talking back and forth. I can say, can you make sure to bring the word up when I'm not getting it, and kind of create a spaced repetition idea? Or we can look at how Quizlet now has AI built into it itself, and anybody can use this. It's in the free version of Quizlet. You've got the Quizlet words, and now instead of just practicing with the cards or the different practice activities for drag and drop and stuff, you can click on the AI thing on the chat and actually practice through conversation. So I tested this out based on the words I imported from ChatGPT. This is Quizlet. I said, please make a sentence using the word incentives. It said that to me, and I said, I don't have any incentives to get off the couch. I just was testing it, and it said, you have a grammatically correct sentence. In this case, incentives refers to the factors that motivate or influence behavior. Next sentence, can you make a sentence using opportunity cost, right? The opportunity cost of a night of drinking is a headache the next day. Well done, your sentence is grammatically correct. And then I really wanted to test it. It said, can you create a sentence using economic environment? I said, the economic environment is green. And this was interesting. Almost there, your sentence is grammatically correct, but the word green is not the most appropriate adjective, right? And so it gave helpful, polite feedback and told me why I was wrong, right? And I think this is going to be really cool that we can now practice terms, practice things through conversation, through dialogue, and through, and develop the kind of conversational capacities and everything, instead of just looking at a word and trying to recall it, which personally never worked well for me. So could do this probably on ChatGPT, and now it's built into Quizlet as well. Next principle is just try it out. And what I mean is, I'm on a lot of different forums and groups on the internet and with people sharing ideas and questions and things. And I think like 80% of the questions could just be asked to ChatGPT. Right. And I don't mean important ethical questions that we need to talk about as humans. I mean things like, can ChatGPT do this? Can ChatGPT do that? I wonder if it could do this. The way to find that out is just to try, because people are discovering things about this. The creators of this technology are discovering things about this all the time. It's a new era. Somebody recently posted the other day, an educator posted, I just asked it to create an MP4 and it created a video for me, like without using a plugin or anything. No idea how it did that or why, but just by trial and error, you end up finding out what this stuff can do, right? So an educational world where we're used to rigor and demonstrated studies and things like that. This is also the world for tinkerers and explorers here, because sometimes we have to just try things and see what happens. And a lot of what I've discovered have been either inspired by other people, sometimes in completely different fields, where I've just said, well, wait a minute, if it can do this, maybe it can do this. If it can take these principles of, say, what makes effective tutoring, maybe it can take principles of language learning and create something. And so it's that trial and error, and then these little aha moments that you get, and then the iteration that follows up. So just try it out. I showed a couple examples of this already, I think, which is the thing itself is really, really smart, but not perfect. And it's not a place for a search repository where you just find things. It is, it's not a search engine, basically. And so it's really good at doing certain things if you provide the information that it needs, right? And so one of the things that I showed you already was the task generator, which unfortunately didn't load for whatever reason, but it does work. It'll just create, hundreds of different tasks based on TBLT principles. And the news from OpenAI last week took this one step further, and I think this is going to be very exciting. Now you can create your own custom GPTs. And so what that means is it looks like this, is you've got a GPT builder. And so again, through conversation with this thing, you tell it exactly what you want to create, and you can upload studies. So if you go to the configure tab, you can upload published research and things that explain concepts and what the studies showed and the research and everything. And then you talk back and forth about creating this thing that serves to help teachers, right? So I'm working on this one now. I just started it because it just came out, so it's not ready to be released yet. But basically, this means everybody can create their own apps and that do particular things for them. So I'm working on one that embeds all of the TBLT knowledge from the field, things about analyzing needs, things about creating tasks, things about assessment, discussing with it back and forth iteratively like we have with other things, and people will just be able to access this and it will help them create courses. So you might think about, how could I do that in my own field? How can I experiment with that? Creating my own sort of custom GPT. And this is available now for Plus users as well, so the paid version of ChatGPT. So it's not a science yet, but it's a very,
Yeah. Inam, did you ask a question?
That's exactly what I wanted to ask, if it's for upgraded versions.
Yeah,
By
exactly.
the way, we are having the AI playground on Wednesdays, and this Wednesday I was going to show you the personalized chatbot creation process, which is not in ChatGPT 4. It's another app which is free, so everyone can explore this. I'll send you the link. Just a little interruption. Sorry. Go ahead, Sam. Continue.
No, that's great. I mean, I think if you can play with some of this stuff in the playground, that's all the better to experiment, all the experimentation, right? Yeah. So this is, again, very exciting because these can be shared privately or publicly. And so you might design one for a specific team of teachers, right? Something that a specific department or team needs to do. And you could design this and share the link with them. And you can create buttons, where to start, right? So I'm also working on one for learning the basics of language learning, right? Now this is an ethical issue, a privacy issue as well, but you can also upload an entire book onto this and say, and don't do this. I mean, maybe you decide whether you want to do it or not, but I don't want anyone to break the law. But maybe something like, let's say you've got a book and there was no more copyright on it or something. You can go to the configure tab. There's a knowledge section, and whatever you upload to the knowledge section, this uses as its knowledge base. And then, of course, you still have to have that human element asking what it understands from it, helping it apply it to this tool. This one's called ELT Pro, but you could upload a book and say, I want I want students or teachers to be able to interact with this book in dialogue form. And then we've moved from boring, long texts to interacting with it in a dialogical way, in a way with feedback where students can ask all kinds of questions to the book. So if you do have some kind of material, maybe it's your own, maybe it's not copywritten for whatever reason, you might consider, could I turn that into a tailored experience with this? And so again, brand new, just came out.
Yeah, it's brand new for GPT. Yeah, I created my own chatbot for my students. So I actually have my own clone on my LMS, my Moodle, where students interact with me, off class and have ask. It's kind of my vision, my guidelines through ChatGPT length. So I don't have to be there, but they get the answer that I would give them. So if they're working on an assignment or a project, they can ask that chat questions, and I would guide them as a teacher, because it will not just give them the product, it would help them critically think and do things that I would encourage them to do. Just an example that I wanted to add for the pedagogical use of such chatbots. So you can definitely create your own for your own field, right? Like your physics tutor, your mathematics teacher, history, whatever.
And I think a lot of educators probably have light bulbs going off right now because they can think of ways where that would apply, right? Exactly. And not only are you just outsourcing things in that way and saving yourself time, but you're letting people engage with this at their own pace, on their own time, in a way that they understand, in the same way that I did by talking to this thing about these persuasion principles, right? So you're kind of personalizing that to them as well. So that's really fantastic.
We are doing that. Morning. We are doing that for the Tamtech platform. So we would ask any questions, and that would answer. We don't have to be there to provide answers about how to use it, how to interact. That's what we're doing. Thanks, Elena, for bringing that up. Thank you.
Customer support, the chatbots, all that is everywhere already.
Absolutely, yeah.
And to be clear, chatbots are not new. They've been around for ages, but what's new is being able to build these things for yourself to your own requirements, right? And again, to demonstrate that programming is now with human language, you get to create these things by talking to it. And that's just to reiterate that, right? The stuff is not new, it's better, it's more advanced, and now everybody can make it with language, natural language. So that's what makes this stuff really, really cool. So
well, feed in as you go, feed in the bot as you go, and as you perceive other questions, other interests. That's what's very interesting about it. Thanks.
Absolutely. Yeah. So again, there's some repetition here, but like learning a language, you learn to use this stuff by doing it. And I do think it's an important point because a lot of people don't know where to begin. And, I've been working with people in different capacities. And what I realized is the thing is to get people to their first light bulb moment of realizing what this technology can do and the limits of it, and kind of pushing the limits and seeing how it can apply to their own case. And this goes back to just try it out. Like learning a language, you learn to use it by using it, right? What you produce and do will be as unique as you and as your students. So that's why the nature of my talk is, and the work that I've been doing is showing people ideas and possibilities with the hope that in the back of their mind, they say, hey, I don't do that exactly in my work, but maybe I could do this. And I think that is the kind of learning that we need to think about here is saying, oh, maybe I could try that, trying it, see what happens, experimenting, sharing with colleagues, right? Learn to use it by using it. You don't need a fancy training that claims to teach you how to prompt, because as mentioned before, the more advanced this gets, the less it's about super advanced prompting and more responsive to what you say. Yeah. So anybody familiar with learning theory, or from, might think of Vygotsky's more knowledgeable other? And I think this is an interesting idea. I asked ChatGPT about this because I was trying to flesh out my own ideas with it. And I said, his concept of the more knowledgeable other, what is it? And how could ChatGPT act as it? And right, the more knowledgeable other is how we learn, right? And when we're children, for example, our learning is scaffolded usually through conversation and through dialogue. With the more knowledgeable other, it can be a person, it can be a resource, it can be tools, right? And I think in this case, if we think about interacting with this in a particular way where we're scaffolded, as it mentions here, as the responses are adapted and we get feedback, again, to just reiterate the power of dialogue, learning through conversation, us being able to ask questions when we're not clear about something, getting things explained to us in that personalized kind of way at our own speed is potentially very, very powerful, right? And so that's a potentially exciting tying into learning theory here, that this could act as a more knowledgeable other. But of course, sometimes we're the more knowledgeable other, right? When it comes to certain things, and we need to teach it what we want it to do. So it's this real back and forth.
I have a question. Is it possible? Hello.
Yep.
I tried some very interesting experiment with my students.
Mm-hmm.
They are humanities students, but they use some kind of analyzing technology to analyze the tests, the results of tests. I provide them with an algorithm to ask ChatGPT. They received the data for the different materials. I expected to receive the report, which are very alike one with the second, because this is the different materials, but the same procedure. I received completely different things from, if I will give credits, from 0 credit to 120 credits. And this is what is very, very strange for me, because I'm expected, if they even don't know sciences, but they have ChatGPT, they will receive a mean just to step to the another kind of knowledge. And for me, it was very, very strange, because it was completely different analysis. And even when we ask the question to repeat what is right, the answer was, I'm really sorry, I can't do this, I don't have an approach to the data, or something like this.
Right. Okay. So if I understand your question, it is something like, why can you ask ChatGPT the same question and get 20 answers, right? And then how could that be reliable, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's, I mean, that's a really good point. And I think that ties in this idea of understanding what this is and isn't, and staying in the loop as the human being, right? Again, it's not taking anything that it says as gospel, as set in stone. It's using things to inspire thinking and to push the direction of our thinking. So, you know, I might trust it if it's trained on a particular set of materials, and I create, like I showed a couple of slides ago, creating this tailored thing that is based on research and I've tested it. That's a different thing than saying, give me a summary. This was a conversation I had in a group recently. Give me a summary of this chapter of a random book. And a teacher said, maybe ChatGPT isn't all we thought it was. And I said, no, you're just not using it. That's not what it is, right? It's not something that can give you a summary of a book that you didn't upload, right? So it's creatively making up things based on what it does understand. It's not giving you a concrete answer, right? So I think this just stands for like keeping the human in the process and understanding what it is and what it isn't. Now, what you might do is think about how it's interesting that you could get 20 answers for something that are all different, and maybe they all take a different route, because that
they were different way from the same analysis I did 2 months ago. I didn't provide my students something that I don't know. I received very, very clear answer. I checked this way. I changed algorithm. I changed the tasks for ChatGPT, and I provide my students and ask them receive the results and bring me the reports for discussing what we received. I was like, I don't know, like earthquake for me. It was completely different what I received. This were the same material that I checked. This is the not new ones.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really good at making things up, for better or for worse, right? So the good thing is you can create 100 versions of something, you know, that could be potentially useful. The bad thing is if you're not rigorous with, like, if you're looking for a particular thing, it will go off the deep end and start saying things that, so are you saying, is this a positive or a negative for you? I'm not quite.
For some tasks, this is positive. Yep. If we need a broad picture, big picture, but if we have specific technical tasks just to short a time, it could not be done, because I don't want to teach every time the same tasks somebody. It's for me better to teach my students, and they will do this like a machine. This is the situation that ChatGPT, that I taught it 1 month ago, 1 week ago, 1 day ago, it could not repeat the same things. It's like
in the same. Did you do it in the same chat?
Yeah. Okay. I have all these tasks. I kept them. I saved them
in the same thread.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, and for me, this was it's very interesting. It's very tricky for me, but not for to study people.
That's what you need to do. Is just that's why I'm advocating experimentation and pushing the limits and saying, oh, it can do this, it can't do that. It's not.
Yeah, I did this. I showed them, and then they were very, very, how to say, it does not work. We can do this with Excel. It does not work.
Right.
Because they received the results, but the analysis of the results.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's thought-provoking. You know, you need to find what it can do and what it can't, and then follow the trends of how it's developing as well. Konstantinatos? Konstantinos, sorry. Is that how you say that?
Thank you.
Kostas is easy. So by following your presentation, I would like, to place my conclusions until now. You in transparency before, you mentioned that we need to know the road. We need to know what we would like to do. So for me, ChatGPT I don't agree that we live in an era, or it seems that we live in an era with no experts, but I will say expertise is needed, or somehow it needs to know where you would like to go, as you said in your transparency. So I don't agree exactly that we live on an era of no expertise. I like, the people, my competitors, to feel like this, because it makes my life easier to compete and take the grants and the others they are not going to take. You should know what you would like to do. ChatGPT is like F1, Formula One. You need to know how to drive in order to drive Formula One. In this case, you can judge what ChatGPT brings you, because ChatGPT, I disagree that is an innovator. ChatGPT combines very fast already uploaded information. The innovators are the end users. How are you going to use the information that ChatGPT provides to you? So I disagree that ChatGPT is an innovator. It just,
I don't think I said that. I mean, I really hope I made it clear.
I just following it just combines information very fast. It's the end user, as you said, that you know where to go in order to innovate the answers. So don't take ChatGPT as an autonomous driver that you go inside and drives you. You know how to do it somehow.
Totally.
Let me ask a question, Sam, if I may, as a follow-up to what Costas said. May I say for now, that's what Costas said. How about when ChatGPT was thrown into into play, we were wondering whether it would do this, would do that. A couple of months ago, I did the following. I tried the following. I did some work on ChatGPT, and then I said, okay, go prompt it, create a file. It came back, said, I created a file. I said, call the file Tamkin, and it did. That's the name of the foundation. It did come back and said, yes, I created the file, called it Tamkin. I said, now file everything we did so far into that file. And it did say, come back saying, okay, I did. So I said, for now, bye, and I'll get back. I stayed a couple of minutes off, came back, said, okay, give me Tamkin file. It was not there. Now we could do it. So I don't know whether within 3, 4 months, 5 months, a year, it would not be able to work on its own. And you just prompt it for whatever you would like to do, wherever you are, and it would do it for you. So for now, as you said, Costas, it does not. It does not work on its own. But how about in a year from now, and even less than that time? What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what I'm trying to kind of highlight that as well when I talked about moving from prompting to dialogue and ChatGPT getting more responsive and understanding context better. And as someone who's used it since the day it was released to the public, like daily, used it for work and for different research purposes, I see that, I can experience that trend, that it's getting more and more automated to the point where you say what you want and you get a better result. That is absolutely the trend that we're experiencing right now. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. You'll do what you just said and get errors and stuff, and then it will forget and give you the wrong thing. I mean, and I hope to demonstrate too, I give it a lot of pushback as well, but that is definitely the trend. And that's where they're trying to take this technology, is so that with as minimal friction as possible, you get what you want. And that ties in what Constant you said as well, because it's like, I didn't mean there's no expertise. I mean, this is so new. The particular using this for purposes is such a new thing that we're all learning and discovering as we go. But when I talk about embedding knowledge, I mean, that's the kind of expertise that you need. So I hope one of the main takeaways that I can give too is that your subject matter knowledge, your pedagogical knowledge is actually more important than ever, right? And it's just getting better, to pick up on the most recent commenter there, that it's getting better at understanding what that is and picking up on what you want as we go. Yeah. Did you have another question, another comment?
Yeah, okay. I totally agree with you, Sam, and also to my friend Abdelillah. I think that I'm not, I'm a laser physicist. I'm just following this from curiosity. I think that if we follow what generative AI is doing, I think that if ChatGPT will follow this trend, at the end of the day, will generate its own answers without needing to upload by just combination. But still the expertise is needed, because for
Yep.
the humans, for the market, in order to trust what ChatGPT or whatever AI, generative AI is going to produce, you need to convince the stakeholders how to use it. So the expertise still needed in order to reconfirm. Some of the experts, they reconfirm the safety of this. I give you an example. I don't know if you have read the Kissinger's book about AI. You know, they provide to the fighter pilots some fighter dogfight maneuvers that the pilots, they don't trust it. But, you know, as the expert is building and as more trust is building to the AI outcomes, this will come. So I think that right now it combines, later on it will combine to generate some not, you know, let's say how conventional approaches, and still there, you know, expertise is needed in order somehow to trust, you know, these answers. And
I totally agree with you, Kostas. Expertise is needed. I totally agree. Yes.
Totally. I mean, that's my main message, right? Is keeping the human in, and that's built into the goal orientation as well, right? Where do goals come from, right? Goals are things that we decide we want to do based on our own values, right? And then, as I said, picking the tool to help you achieve the goals, right? And I can extrapolate this to the future and say, well, if I'm programming things based on what we know about language learning, what if this thing picks up patterns and learns how languages are learned, for example, better than us, and can like, I'm not thinking that far into the future, but you're absolutely right. For ethical and sort of just humanistic reasons as well, we need to keep the human in the loop. And I try to stress that as well. So I totally agree with what you're saying, right? And what I'm trying to get at is just augmenting our own creativity, right? Starting with the goals that we have in mind, augmenting our own creativity to speed things up. That's where we are now. As far as I do think the future is a little bit scary, right? And so there's a lot of potentially negative things about this as well. But right now I'm just reflecting on how much it can enhance the teaching and learning process at the moment. So
Sam, let me ask you another question, please. You just said we need to keep human in the loop. To the extent we block the development of the intelligence, I mean, what ChatGPT, for instance, is or is developing to, is that something you're thinking about? We block so to keep human in the loop?
What I mean is being no, I'm thinking much less sort of philosophically about it at this point. Just the practicality of not accepting everything that you get and offering a very critical eye, a judgmental eye, being iterative with the results when you're producing something, when you're making a piece of material, right? So I've always been critical of, give me a lesson plan on this, right? It's more like the ways that I've demonstrated is what I'm trying to get at.
Okay. Okay.
Right. Really interesting stuff. Let's see if we can get through the rest of these in the next half hour, and then hopefully we'll have some more time for questions. So very interesting, thought-provoking stuff. So speaking, though, this might tie in, is speaking of goal orientation. One thing in my domain of teaching that's super important, but I think it should be important in every domain, is the needs, the actual needs of the people who we are working with, right? The needs and interests, and designing training and implementing things that are based off of that. So when we do a needs analysis, what are we trying to collect? A bunch of things, right? The reasons that the person is learning. In TBLT, it's the tasks that they will do or have to do in the language. How well they can do those tasks now, of course, because most people in today's world are not starting from scratch, at least in my context. It's like, you kind of know how to write that report and you've done it a little bit in English, even though it's not your native language, right? So it's being really responsive and adaptive and finding how well people can do things now. This is really important, but what those tasks look like when done well, right? So that could be, you know, if you're an EMI teacher and you teach economics as an example, maybe you do a TBLT course to give a good lecture, to give a lecture on a particular topic. That is considered a type of task, a type of thing that you have to do. And we need to know what that looks like when it's done well, and what the discourse is like, what the elements of, so that we can plan for that. Speaking of backwards planning, right? the interests of the person because they're human beings, right? And so every course that I have, there's an element of who are you and what are you interested in? When you're talking language level, CEFR stuff is debatable. I mean, in TBLT, in a strict sense, you want to know how well they can do tasks is the answer to this question. It's a more realistic answer in TBLT to say, how well can you write this type of email? How well can you give this lecture based on the criteria that we've decided, right? Or the domain criteria for that. In a general sense, CEFR level is not that helpful there because it doesn't always. I've had people with C1 CEFR exams who can't do the things that they need to do in their language. And I've had B1 or even A2 who can communicate and get by in communicative situations. So the CEFR or different kinds of level analysis is not the same thing as how well you can do something. There's some overlap, but there's also some big differences at times. So, but maybe you consider that for organizational purposes, right? And then of course, the constraints, the availability, right? So we've always done this in my context. If I go into a company and there's 80 to 100 people in a department, the first thing we do is start analyzing where everybody's at, what they can do, what they need to do. We get access to all the company's data. We say, what are these tasks? We look for good examples of that task being done, right? This is a very extensive process. And what I've found is that it's exciting to think about how ChatGPT, whether for that context or just for somebody trying to do this privately, can integrate the technology to enhance and speed up this process. And so I'll show you a guy called Carl here. And Carl is a 52-year-old from Germany. Now, this was generated with the help of ChatGPT, and I'll show you how. Even the images, I said, hey, this is Carl's profile, generate some images for me. And what I found kind of interesting was that there's consistency between these images, because if you've ever experimented with like previous versions of DALL-E and the older image generation stuff, you'd say, give me 4 pictures of the same guy, and they'd be completely different people. And now it just automatically kind of put him in, the same guy in these different contexts as mentioned. So I have a nice profile. If I were to create a course for Carl or people like Carl, this would be great information to know, right? What he does, what his learning needs and goals are, what his language level and particular notes about his language use, the tasks that he has to focus on in his training, and then of course, things about his availability and group preferences. Now, this is all stuff that we would typically manually collect. However, speaking of making tools, I made an NA assistant, right? Speaking of making bots and things that can do things for you. And this was before we had the capacity to make our own GPTs. So now I would produce this thing in the form of a GPT instead of a chat. But I tested this out and I said, you're English Pro GPT, an expert conversational needs analysis interviewer. Speaking of embedding expertise, right? As we mentioned, staying in the loop, being the driver of what GPT does, not saying, find out for me. I included all of this information, right? I said, find out all of this stuff about the student, the reasons they're learning, the name, the age, the contact information, the nationality. And I specified, specifically how to export the answers. I wanted them in this format, in this Word document format. And then the result was, hello there, I'm a friendly assistant here to help you create a tailored, task-based English course that suits your needs. First, could you tell me your name? Now, this I did on the voice function. So it was a cool experience to literally do this as if it were interviewing me, collecting my information, and then exporting it, right? So you can automate this process. This demonstrates a couple of things. One is the capacity to potentially have this developing needs, but 2, the capacity to tell it what you want to talk to people about. You can make, for example, a practice bot for your students until you're happy with it, right? You can create that and then it will work after your tweaking and experimentation, right? So you can create a thing that just talk to me about these topics, and I'll show you another example of that later. But the other thing is helping with this needs analysis process and automating and outsourcing, automating things, right? So I took this, you can view this later as well with the link and the QR code. And the next step, so I have this information about Carl, this person, and the important things about him collected. We can also then use the capabilities of ChatGPT to browse the web and find out specifically about Carl's company and products, right? So then I took Carl's information and said, can you extract as much information as possible about the machines that this customer that he produces and who they do business with, right? I'm trying to build a course. And I got all this. So yeah, you could do this on your own. You could browse the web and find the answers to this stuff, but that would be a lot of research. Instead, I can say, browse the web for me for these specific things and integrate it into this workflow. So I got all this information about what this company does to get a better idea of the kind of work and the specific types of language and products that we might see to really power up that needs analysis process. And I know this might not be particularly relevant to the university context, but we'll demonstrate as well how I want to demonstrate the capacity of building upon a workflow here, integrating something you've created, building on it with web search, right? You could think about doing all kinds of research in this way. And then once I produced that, I produced an outline for Carl's course based on all of that information, right? And this is, again, it's always the starting point. So I can look at it and say, well, I'm happy with that, or I want to change things a little bit. But it was a good overview to start with, all based on that needs analysis that was done and then the web search. And so then I said, okay, let's create the module 1 material. And again, embedding your experience and expertise, I said, this is what I want the material to look like. I want him to have a chance to do it first, because people who, in this context, who already do these tasks, I think give them a chance and see what use that as the assessment, right? So he write the email first, and then let's see if the material will open. Some of the links are a little faulty. Oh, here we go. So we have training session, crafting effective product email update. Somebody's already here. Hello to you, Loris, whatever that is. Right. And so I have the teacher's notes and the overview, and I also have the sample email that we will then use as a model to explore and talk about, right? So it went from creating that to creating the material for me. And then if you think back to before, I could take I could take Carl's results, his email, plug it back in, develop it further and say, where should we go next? What can we work on next to help me plan, to help me ideate, to plan this tailored course as we go? So integrating all of these exciting things together into a workflow. And again, it's really hard to plan presentations for this kind of thing, because this news announced last week, I believe, about creating these bots means that I will now be able to program all of these steps into one bot that can do all of this in a more automated way. And it also speaks for the value of learning the basics of what this stuff is, because every step that the technology has taken, every new exciting update has depended on knowing something from before about developing that basic understanding. And so I think there really is a case to be made for adopting this as soon as possible, because it's going to keep getting more advanced, but it's based on the same fundamental things and principles in technology. With the caveat that, like what one of the commenters just mentioned, was that it's getting to the point where you need to specify less and less to get good results. So there are trends like that to consider. So there we go, outsource and automate, right? Potentially letting it handle repetitive tasks, freeing you up time for value-added interactions, right? Streamlining processes, right? Thinking about not having this do our jobs, but doing the things that it can do better than us, or faster or more efficiently, so that we can spend more quality time interacting, right? More quality time being with our students, being with other people. And I think that's keeping the person at the center. This, I think we've already demonstrated, right? That this can tailor the content to individual learners. As I demonstrated in my video there, potentially creating unique learning paths for each student, right? Now, again, if if, like you mentioned before in the question about the 20 different results, we have to think about this a little bit more carefully. But if I take something that is well understood and published, right? Because you have to think about the way that GPT works, right? That it's trained on tons and tons of data, right? So the more well-established in general something is, so for example, these persuasion principles, the better it's able to apply and adapt and use those. The more specific it is, like a chapter of a book, the more you're moving away from what its use is, unless you were to upload that book chapter, right? So if you want your students to do something very specific, what you need to do is teach GPT, and that's in the form of a bot, as I and Elena have mentioned, or in these new GPTs where you program it to do what you want to do. I think that's a really important distinction, right? And of course, enhancing engagement, right? I would encourage you to have a conversation, have a spoken conversation with this bot, with ChatGPT, about topics of your choice, things you want to learn about, your own professional development, and particularly talk about things you know really well, because that's a really good way to see what its capabilities are. Talk about topics that you're already sort of an expert in, and then see what you can trust and what you need to add more input to. Quality in, quality out. I think that's an important, you also know it as garbage in, garbage out, but we're going to go with ensuring that what we put in is solid, right? Maintaining high standards, updating as we go. There's less and less excuse for mediocre stuff these days because we can iterate, expand, adapt in such a quick and an iterative way, right? We can do these things rather quickly now. So this question comes up a lot, and we've already kind of touched on it today, and it was in the notes, right? Is it going to take our jobs? And I think that always depends, right? I think that always depends what we think our jobs are, right? So I can tell you about my context. If you teach language, there's a lot of different ways to go about that. But there are some teachers who still kind of approach it in the way that, let's see, the way that I learned in high school Spanish, which I cannot speak at this point. So if that says anything, a lot of people have stories like that, right? What AI can do really well is give you grammar explanations in English anyway. I haven't tested the boundaries with other languages, although I am using it for German for myself with some really good experiences. But obviously English is its strong point. It's trained on more English than anything, right? It can give you really good personalized grammar explanations. It can create materials and texts for you. So I can say, that was essentially a text that I was interacting with there. A PPP lesson, if you're not familiar with language teaching methodology, is present, practice, produce. So sort of, here's a grammar point, practice the grammar point, and then try to use the grammar point. I and many other language teachers are critical of that methodology. It's sort of the opposite of TBLT theoretically and practically, because it doesn't tend to resemble what second language acquisition finds about language learning, which is that it's primarily, you learn it by using it, you pick up a lot of things implicitly, and then you need feedback, and you need, you need sort of a reactive focus on grammar and on language as you go, but not the other way around, right? So a learning by doing kind of approach, that we primarily learn language that way, even as adults. We don't pick it up as naturally as you might think as kids, but we have a lot of that capacity left, and that the more exposure and interaction with that reactive kind of teaching, the more we learn, right? So yeah, if it can do all of these things, then what is the role of a language teacher? All right, and that's a question that I have to ask myself. I mean, I see a lot of teachers still trying to do these things, spending a lot of time doing these things, and in that case, I think, well, maybe it will take those positions, or not those positions, but those tasks, right? So for me, there's always putting the human at the center of this. And I think this frees us up to use the tech to do the most important thing, which is planning. I hope I've showed that through reacting to the data, to the transcripts, to creating the needs, to adapting and creating as we go, that we can plan fantastic things. And not only can we plan them, they're not fixed in stone like a textbook is that gets published every year or two. It's adaptable and flexible. And so I can walk into the classroom or into the virtual classroom, as I do mostly these days, and just engage with my students and engage and adapt and create things instantly that need to be created and all of this stuff. So really just more quality interaction with students. And there's definitely a motivational factor there as well. And this is a non-research-based scientific thing, but for me, interacting with the bot is only engaging because it's interesting that I'm doing this with a robot. Knowing that I'm talking to this thing in German, for example, is only motivating if I'm practicing for a real thing. So I can say, hey, help me practice this conversation that I need to have when I go to the dentist, and let's practice it and give me some feedback. Then it becomes super motivating because I'm practicing for something I'm looking forward to. Dentist is not the most motivating example. I mean, it's not the most romantic thing in the world, but you get the idea. So using this stuff to center our human interactions, to plan for them, to prepare for them. Okay.
5 minutes for you, 5 minutes for questions. Then we'll take a 5-minute short break for everyone and come back to the next lecture with Costa. So let's
wrap it up. Okay, so I'm going to skip a couple things that are more relevant. Just
I can be faster myself if you would like to give more time to the speaker. It's up to you. I mean,
I can wrap it up. So let me just skip through a couple things here. I do want people to have time for questions. So quickly, I call this remixing, right? And in language teaching, and specifically, I don't know other contexts, but in this one, people often feel burdened with the materials that they have to use. There are situations in language teaching where people feel like, I don't like this, and they have no choice, right? And so what I did here was show that people could remix a syllabus that they don't like. This comes from a course book, and it's for the reasons that I mentioned before, not my favorite kind of approach. And so what I did was I uploaded the syllabus to ChatGPT and said, help me make it better. I explained what I wanted to do, that I still wanted the topics to be the same and the sort of outcomes to be the same, but I wanted it to be done in a more effective way. Just briefly, in this, all of the skills they're not connected to each other. Language is broken up into bits and pieces instead of treated holistically. It's just not the way that I would go about teaching. So if I were stuck with this, I could then put it into ChatGPT, tell it what's wrong with it. And after a little bit of conversation and a little bit of back and forth, again, keeping the expertise and the human there, produce this, which now is in the form of tasks and things that people do with language. Integrated skills, right? So having it help me to integrate so that the reading and the reading and the writing are connected, right? And the listening and the speaking are connected, because that's how we actually produce language, right? So the idea of taking something that already exists, not starting from scratch, but remixing it to be more in line with your interests is something. I think we've said enough about this, right? So we've just to retouch on it, staying in the loop. In my context, this is super important because people often come to me spontaneously, right? And so I can create spontaneous tasks for people that they're developed instantly, right? And so a secretary came to me and said, oh, I get these messages on Microsoft Teams, and it's crazy because they're short, but I don't know how to answer them without a translator. And I'm like, totally makes sense. That's a type of discourse that has all these elements to it, the formality, the friendliness, all of this stuff. So in another window, I said, generate 10 examples of this with a condition so that the student has to take the condition and write the message appropriately. Instant task, perfectly tailored for the student. So we can create materials on the spot here, which I think is super exciting. That will skip. And this one was a screen-free virtual lesson. Transcribed the call again, right? I was out walking around The students were working together to solve this kind of logic puzzle, which they have to both exchange information. I analyzed the transcript. As I showed before, I got the feedback sheet from the transcript, and then I used that to plan where we're going. So I said, what did we develop there? What could use work? I helped this to explore. So I was out walking around. I was wireless completely. I was just giving feedback and encouragement through the discussion. And then I used this to say, okay, this is their working context. Can we take those skills from before, the things that still need to be worked on, and integrate them into a real life task that they have to do as corporate accountants and accounts receivable? And voila, I got this beautiful task laid out for me, which transfers what we just did and the needs that were analyzed into their context. We talked about understanding the basics already, so we can, just skip over that, but that's following the trends and understanding the technology. And this is just one last thing here. We're moving from this. I saw this on LinkedIn and I said, who wants to memorize 200 apps? When we are moving to this, where centralized things can do almost everything we want them to do just by speaking to them, right? To me, that's a lot more interesting. It frees up my headspace. I can say, ChatGPT, do this, do that, do the other thing, integrate it all together. This, I think, is a trend that we're definitely moving towards. And this stuff is all stuff that we've covered. So you can have a look at that. One final thing, and I'll stop here. My son is 2 years old. He's learning to speak. He's bilingual. And so it's coming a little bit slowly, but it bursts out sometimes. And I said, I was playing with this. I said, Ollie, what do you want to see? And he said, a panda bear. I said, okay, what do you want the panda bear to do? And he said, airplane, because we had just gone on a plane. So I said, okay. And in 2 seconds, I had this wonderful picture, and he said, panda bear, airplane, panda bear, airplane. And then boom, that like really boosted the engagement. And then we started taking this on motorcycle tours and other stuff and creating. So we met him right where he was with the learning process. And it was really interesting. And I think that's insightful as well. So there's a lot more to look at here. I guess I had more planned than I thought. So please visit the slides. Here you can see how everything is tied together in the creation of one course, along with the conversation used to create it. More than happy to have you check that out and then answer questions. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. A lot of stuff here. Sorry, probably too much, but yeah, you can connect with me. Happy to open up for questions now. So.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much, Sam. Perfect timing. We probably have a time for a comment or two, maybe a question, and then we are moving on to the next session. We will take a short break because we've been online for 2 straight hours, almost 80 people still there. So you've done an amazing job. We appreciate it so much. So read the comments. They're wonderful. Yes, Kostas, you're raising your hand, please.
Sam, thank you very much for this impressive presentation. It combines everything, and I think it takes us to the new era as a teachers, as an academics of the artificial intelligence more smoothly. However, I would like to ask you a few things. The first one is like, what kind of skills do you think that the academics of the new era should demonstrate in order to become part of the game and facilitate and exploit and leverage, the use of these impressive tools? Because ChatGPT, I suspect, is one of them. So this is my first question. And my second question is the following. I mean, all of us, we are talking about collaboration. And I'm thinking, all right, and for me, then the difference are the humans. So if I will start to share my ideas and explain how to do it and what are the details of whatever I'm thinking, why to share it with the others, since they can place the ChatGPT, they can place, something new, but, I will share my details, and this will make my competitors more competitive. So how can we stop the ChatGPT to be a barrier of collaboration? Because as I told you, the small details makes the difference now.
Yeah, so super interesting questions. First of all, so thank you so much for all the interesting, thought-provoking stuff. I think all of your questions could be a webinar of their own, but they're super interesting questions. And I'll just say, The second one I think about a lot myself because like I'm giving away so many ideas and inspiration that people can then go and take and make a lot of money with, potentially, right? I mean, people could go and make software that integrates all of the things that I'm talking about. So what am I doing, right? Like, and I think about that and I think, well, that ties into the first one, because I think what this does is it gives us really powerful tools that we can use to be more of ourself. And so the kind of maybe unexpected answer that I have for the first question is we need to focus more on being people and the people side of things and building our people skills and our soft skills. And of course, integrating those tech skills together. But at the end of the day, that's going to make us really competitive as well, right? We have a powerful, powerful set of tools that we have to learn to use in a principled way. But at the end of the day, we sell ourselves with our own personality, our own social skills. I hope that's somewhat of an answer for you. I don't think I have time for the detail, but we could probably have endless conversations about that, right? So thank you for those questions. Yeah.
Wonderful, for sure. Janet, you will be last, and then we'll take a short break.
Thanks. So Sam, it was very interesting. Do you have any ChatGPT tools that can recognize text that was written by ChatGPT? Because I'm teaching students and I sometimes see text that, you know, don't compatible with the basic level of writing. And if we're talking about ethics and originality, so how can I detect if the text was written by ChatGPT and not by the students?
Unfortunately, you can't with any sort of accuracy. As I mentioned at one point here that they've done studies on this, and so far, nothing predicts. I mean, you can see trends yourself. Like I can identify on LinkedIn, I'm like, that was written by ChatGPT because I've seen enough text written by ChatGPT. But unfortunately, there's no real way to do that right now, despite what tools people are selling and promoting. So that's an unanswered question. But what you can do is encourage transparency and say, I'll let you use ChatGPT, but you have to show me the whole conversation. That's one thing to do, right? And then you can see how they got to the answer that they did.
Okay.
And it brings us to re-evaluation of our assessment of the path that we give to our students.
Yep.
This is something we need to really rethink.
The take-home essay is done, right? I mean, we have to.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you for the question, though. Yeah.
Yes, Costa, you're muted. I see that you're saying something.
Yeah, I would like to provide my thought on this. What Janet has asked. The more you use the ChatGPT for your use, the more you can identify if something comes from a ChatGPT. So the more you leverage it for your own use, the more you can recognize, the patterns up to a level, because as Sam has mentioned, the more you ask, the more creative it becomes and less you can identify it. But, for the first stage, the more you use it, the easier it is to identify if ChatGPT is the generator. And of course, the assessment also helps, because the students, they should answer the 5 how. At the end of the day, if they have not understood anything, they cannot answer. This is because I was thinking of this. Thank you.
Great. And just to wrap that up, because this came to mind, thinking what are things that you can't cheat? Well, engaging in a debate live, engaging in a conversation live, right? Certain kinds of things that you can't really cheat at those, right? So if you use writing as a way to clarify thinking, which it's always been good for, and then we start moving towards assessments where people actually have to do things and explain things, right? Because it's arguable that taking home and writing an essay was never that great of a learning experience anyway. So how can we move towards things where this cheating isn't an issue? Open question, and everybody has to start thinking about answers for that. So.
All right, so a really short break for.
Can I add something really shortly?
Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
I think in relation to the cheating thing, that we professors, teachers, we've been cheating. We've gotten very accustomed to judging the language, the English. And if it's well written, then we think that it's well thought. And that's really, it shouldn't be that way. And ChatGPT has great English, but if you don't have the dialogue with it, like Sam said, if you don't do incremental prompting, if you don't tweak it to do exactly what you want, you're going to get very mediocre results. And that's what we should be judging anyways.
Quality in, quality out, right?
Exactly. So if we get a perfectly written essay, which is mediocre thought-wise, then we should judge it exactly as that. And if we get something really good, it wasn't written by GPT with a simple prompt. It wasn't. It doesn't work that way.
Yes.
So we can still judge context.
Good point. Good point. Yeah. Yeah, great point. And just I'll stop now, but TBLT, we didn't have a lot of time to get into details, but that's an important component of TBLT as well. That language, even though it's language teaching, is one element in this broader picture of what is doing that task well, right? And so you can think about that as well as to not be tricked by good writing. Criterion reference things where are they doing the task regardless of the language that they're using, right? So TBLT can help there too. So very thought-provoking stuff. Thanks everybody.
Is that in Germany? That picture is lovely.
This is my beautiful little city. I live in Bamberg, Germany. It's in Bavaria, about 80,000 people. This is one of the wine festivals in the summer. Really lovely place. And put that up there because I like to have fun too. And I'm not always connected to technology, despite what it might sound like after today. So, yep.
Okay,
yep.
we'll
Is that a beer garden?
That's like the town center, and so this is a town famous for beer. It's got more breweries than almost anywhere, but it's also got vineyards and wineries not far away. So this was a local wine festival. So
Elena, maybe we should plan a get together there. It's a very nice place.
It's beautiful. Come on up, everybody. Look it up. Bamberg, Bamberg. Super nice place. All right.
Okay,
Great
guys,
job.
we
Great job.
only have like 2 minutes, maybe 1 minute left for a break for whoever needs one. I need one. So 1 minute, I'll be back. And I'm going to share my screen and see you in whatever, 1
Thanks.
minute and 20 seconds.
And connect with me on LinkedIn. If you're interested, connect with me. I'll be posting updates and stuff there, and let me know your thoughts. Drop me a line if you'd like to share some thoughts and ideas.
Please answer the feedback form that we shared in the chat. We're gonna reshare again and again and again, and I will also reach out to you again through email if you don't have time right now, because we do need to hear back from you on the your insights and impression from this online study day. Okay, see you.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much. Enjoy.
Thank you so much. See you soon.
My pleasure. See you. Bye.
We are coming back from the break, so please get ready. We are going to give the floor to Professor Kostas Pedritis from Hellenic Mediterranean University. Hellenic Mediterranean University is the head and coordinating institution for Impact, Inter-Mediterranean Peace and Collaboration Virtual Exchanges Project, sponsored and funded by Erasmus+. So we are going to learn from Costa's experience. He has very close relationship with the Israeli institutions, lots of friends here, right? Collaborating with the universities, colleges, and of course, all over Europe and beyond. So a vice rector of internationalization of Hellenic Mediterranean University. So we have a lot of guests here from different international centers, from different institutions in Israel in particular, but also other experts and lecturers interested in virtual exchanges and international courses, COIL courses, even beyond Israel joined us today. So thank you very much for your time and for your patience. It turns out it's not easy to sit in front of the computer for 3 hours, but we're all excited because of the interesting content. So Kostas, thank you very much. Welcome and share your screen with us.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. It's very nice to be among friends, as you mentioned. I will try to be as fast in order to finish on time and answer, if it's possible, any questions. You know, my presentation mainly comes from my experience and my hobby, because to be involved in internationalization activities for me is like more like a hobby than, you know, my profession. So let me share my screen. And I will start immediately. So I hope that this will work. So I think that you can see my screen, no? The full screen. Okay. So thank you very much. As you know, the previous speaker has mentioned, you know, last night that I prepared this presentation, I'm a typical Greek, so I'm doing everything in the last moment. I changed, you know, the title, and I changed this as to an international university than to an international curriculum. I suspect that you can understand that under the title of an international university, internationalization of curriculum or a curricula is a part of the game. So our motto is coming, of course, from UNESCO. So promoting collaboration among nations through education, science, and culture. And also this is online with a new project that we have together with Israeli and people from Israeli partners and people from Morocco, the Inter-Mediterranean Peace and Collaboration Project Impact, which is like, I will say, very, it's on trend right now, unfortunately, what is happening. So as you will see, you know, this is like my relations with internationalization. As I told you, I started as a hobby, but also helped me to do better research in laser physics and materials. So internationalization for me is a multiplier event, it's a multiplier factor. It's like a Swiss knife, as the previous speaker has shown, in order to do a lot of things. And internationalization is something that applies in all universities pillars. Either is research, education, innovation. So you should think internationalization not just like mobilities. This is the most limited factor and the most limited characteristic that you can see, but as a tool in order, you know, to improve all the pillars of the university and have an impact in anything that you are doing. So I will start with a short definition, why internationalization is important, challenges of the internationalization of higher education, how to monitor internationalization actions, some examples of things that mainly I have been involved and coordinated, examples, how AI can support internationalization in order to be closer to the event, and some conclusions. So what is internationalization? You don't have to read. Internationalization is a culture, is a way of thinking. It is like ChatGPT. You should develop some new skills, some new cultures to be accepted, to include, to be accepted to the different thing, to the different approach, to the different cultures, to accept, you know, the different disciplines within whatever you are developing. So internationalization is something to be very open to the knowledge, to the culture, to expertise. So I will say it's a culture than an act. So internationalization is very important in each university, first of all, because these are the rankings. University rankings counts for internationalization. And, you know, it's like also is a tool that you would like to promote education and research. Everyone knows Harvard, everyone knows MIT, everyone knows Cambridge, but probably no one knows HMU, for example. Definitely no one knows HMU, but this is what we are trying to do through internationalization, to organize and get involved and get engaged to any activities that we can participate, we can lead, in order also to disseminate other parts of HMU, like education and research. And this is very helpful for us because we have participated, even though that we are a very small university, to lead research flagship proposals within the Europe, like graphene flagship, where we are work package leaders of solar cells, like, as you will see, distributed research facilities, laser fusion. We were leading the theoretical work package of how to produce unlimited green energy using laser fusion, and also other things that you can see and you can follow. So for internationalization, matter does not count. It's like only, the culture and the openness. So it's a great opportunity to promote your education and research. It's like a great opportunity to support your education, research, and innovation, since by collaborating with the others, facilities, expertise, knowledge is sharing with your knowledge, expertise, research facilities. So your network becomes your facilities, your offered courses, your classrooms. Extend your capacity through networks, especially if you belong to networks for education and research, provides a strategic, I will say, depth to your university, because you are part of teams and networks that they are taking decision, that they are participating in decision making. So you follow the trends in education and research, which makes the challenging of new funds, as you will see later on, more easier. So this boosts your strategic impact. You publish papers with a higher impact. This is a very nice research from Nature, that the more authors are participating from different countries within a paper, you receive 60% more citation, which is what counts in order to increase and enhance and boost the ranking of your university in the various lists. You attract world talents by organizing international events. You will see that we're organizing joint master degrees, international courses. This makes your university an attractive destination and also a trustworthy partner. And also you attract and you challenge international funding, which leads to elevation, all of them in the work ranking list. And in some cases, you apply science diplomacy. You promote, for example, peace through education. You promote your universities, your values as a country, as a university, to other countries, which also plays an important role in long term. And also you develop particularly soft and digital skills. This is one of the activities that we participate here, even that we share our screen. We learned so many things about ChatGPT. This is like happened online, and digital skills, and as you will see, virtual exchanges and virtual participation in various internationalization activities demands the cultivation of these skills and the use of new tools. Soft skills is very important, and internationalization is the main promoter of this. For example, creativity, adaptability, cultural intelligence can fully cultivated by internationalization of your actions in home or on abroad. Internationalization helped the very small universities in HMU in order to develop joint courses with all these universities. So the size of HMU, the size of the university that I participate, through internationalization, helped me, and helped my university to develop joint courses, joint programs, joint research with very big players. So it's a great opportunity. Do not feel small, because you are not small. Internationalization can place you to feel and work with giants. Challenges, of course, they are numerous, and the main of them is internationalization culture. I will provide a comment on this. Not all the professors are open to internationalization. A lot of them, they feel because of their studies. This is also a study that has been revealed by science, that if the professors in a university have not internationalized their studies, they have not internationalized, their career through their life in a university, do not promote or do not support, or they cannot realize the importance of internationalization for them, for the university, and for the students. So the profile of professors, the people that we hire, also is a barrier or an opportunity for more internationalization, also from the point of view of the network, in order to make the university more internationalized, which is, as I repeat, a culture. In order to make, of course, and increase the internationalization culture, the tips, what we suggest is like to increase and organize more triggering events for internationalization. I will provide concrete examples from our side, later on, and also introduce, increase the motivation of the professors in order to participate in internationalization. For students, it's obvious. They are getting ECTS, they are traveling on abroad in order to cultivate, their cultural richness. But for professors, why a professor to participate in a mobility? If this mobility, if not the challenging of new projects, either research or education, do not count for his promotion or her promotion. So in Europe, and particularly in Greece, the last 2 weeks, I'm leading, a group of people, what kind of KPIs we are going to integrate for the internationalization to count as a threshold during the promotion of academics. Language barriers is there. A lot of people, they are feeling shy to speak English. I don't feel, as you can see. But even students. But this is something from more engagement and the more opportunities, if you realize, can be overcome. Of course, technology, we have seen this, even ChatGPT can help us, but also other online tools can help in order to translate, even, walking in the street, translate from Greek to Israeli or, to Moroccan language. Financial support, this is also a barrier. There is the latest report from Erasmus that they revealed before 3 weeks. They mentioned this, that the financial support that Erasmus provides to the students, to the professors to move on abroad is limited compared to the inflation. So European Commission is working on this in order to increase. They have realized. But what do I say to my students and to my staff? Don't take internationalization as, let's say, a touristic trip. It is probably you are going to meet, and visit other places, but check it as a professional development. So someone pays for you in order to increase and enhance your CV by doing, things through internationalization. Another barrier also is the academic calendar conflicts. When we call to collaborate as a universities to deliver a joint course, a joint activity, different academic calendars also is an issue. But of course, good collaboration and transparent collaboration can overcome this, but still is an issue. Accreditation issues when we deliver a joint course, like this one or other ones that we plan in impact, we need to work in order to accredit them and recognize them as a joint degree, as a joint course. We have questions. I'm not used of Sola, you have a question, no? Is it so?
Your hand, Sola,
Yeah.
do you have something?
Yes, I have a question, but you can continue after the lectures. We ask my question.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate this. I prefer the questions at the end. Thank you. So also motivation, increase the motivation of students, increase the motivation of teachers and academics is something that I have discussed. And the main barrier here are the academics. If the academics are motivated to participate, organize internationalization activities, if their culture is very international and they know why and how this can help them for their career, this is the key in order to make the university very, very international. And I will come back to this. How to monitor your internationalization actions? Actually, this is, you don't need to use ChatGPT, even though that now I have discovered that even my presentation is useless because you can use the ChatGPT in order to identify, but you can use it right now in order to check if I'm going to cover everything and come back with questions. But staff and student mobilities is one criteria. Incoming and outgoing students is one criteria. Visiting professor chairs also is something that counts for your internationalization. International programs and modules, let's say in English, also counts as a KPI of your internationalization. Joint degrees and double degrees, also another factor that counts a lot for the ranking of your university. Opportunities for your university to become an attractive destination, and also opportunity to collaborate with others. Joint PhD students and doctoral schools is something also now that is coming to the game. And also, as I said, part of international networks, either in research, for example, in Europe, we have the distributed research facilities or the European universities as a flagship of these international networks. So, example of internationalization actions that I would like to propose to you. Of course, I'm very biased of what is happening in Europe. And in Europe, all the collaborations are around European strategy for universities. For example, joint courses, joint degrees, seamless mobility of students with the adaptation of the student cards, the European higher education area, which everything goes to, for example, to the European degrees, that the European universities, they can deliver nationally European degrees, that learning outcomes and study mobilities are part of it. European research area priorities, that European industry and European technologies and technology advancement request research, distributed research facilities, as I will show you later on, and of course, digitalization of higher education, that you can think, the accreditation of any learning outcomes like micro-credentials or the blockchain technologies that certifies and helps the transferability of any learning outcome. Let's go one by one. European University Alliances is one of the priorities of collaboration regarding internationalization in Europe. Number of universities from different countries, they have this strategic vision in order to develop joint strategies for education, joint strategies for research, where they should be focused, their collaboration in order to become a reference point, innovation, joint strategies, in order to make, let's say a group of 9 universities like the one that we participate, the Athena, one university with 9 campuses, and focus in one of the activities that will help the integration of Europe through education. In order to facilitate, the second priority in Europe regarding internationalization and collaboration is the European legal statute. How these consortia, they can share funds, they can share and use research facilities in order to act despite of the legal entities and legal legislation barriers as one university. So there is a lot of work how to make them, to power their collaboration. Joint degrees, European degree is also the third priority right now in Europe, how different universities, they can deliver a European degree in a topic delivered by more than one universities, and the mobilities, systematic mobilities to be backed up because of these joint activities through Europe and through the lifetime of a student. So we have a target of 50% of mobility of all students within Europe the next few years. And of course, in order to make this seamless, everything is digital. So we try to develop the European student card with one QR code. You can see all the CV, all the educational path of a student, and also no paperless, work, no paper. Everything will be signed and stored digitally. That's why we need the micro-credential. That's why we need the blockchain in order to secure. Also, another activity that we participate as a university, but also is a priority of research, is what do I have here, the research infrastructure. In HMU, we participate in 2 of these research collaboration actions that European Commission through Horizon funds as you can see in the timeline, funds the research that can happen in different stations, in a different research laboratories in Europe. In this case, we have prioritized the printed electronics. You can see other activities regarding lasers, and also with Weizmann and also university in Kiel in Germany, we have submitted something also in pedagogy to create, something like this for teaching science. But we're still waiting for the results. But here is like printed electronics, and we have another one in chips, where semiconductor industry, because of the COVID, is a priority, and we try to receive funds for 4 years in order to help this mobility of researchers in order to do part of their experiments in different stations. This is very important because you don't have all the facilities, within a university, but through the internationalization of research, there is a funding offered also to Israeli partners and, people, I don't know in the case of Morocco what is happening, in order to fund, the mobility and the experiments in a network of laboratories for a specific priority. The main funding opportunities, of course, is Erasmus Plus and also Marie Curie actions that all of you can participate on top of the horizon. To support the internationalization, as I said, and all these activities for people to be the triggers, the triggering points, you should organize, collaborate, based to your priorities, to a lot of internationalization initiatives, to create info days for students and staff in order to reveal the priorities and the opportunities that internationalization provides, to increase the motivation of your participants, either students and professors, and this needs the backup and the transformation of the way that the governance of universities they think, and also it's a great tool in order to promote, you will see specific actions, the diversity, inclusivity, and equity through internationalization. So to involve people that they don't have an access, they don't have the opportunity in order to participate and support and enhance their research, education, and innovation through internationalization. A new term that now appears is inclusive internationalization, and I will come back to this with some examples. So we start with some examples about internationalization that they are very important for you in order to introduce to this new world, which is the global world, which is like internationalization at home. Activities that you can organize, like this one, for example, can be considered internationalization at home for your staff, for your students before they leave. So you are giving them a flavor of what do they gain by collaborating with others, and I will provide you some examples. One example is a new program that European Commission support, and we are very happy that we are one of the few that we have got funding for this, which are the virtual exchanges. So activities, innovative activities beyond the curriculum or within the curriculum that involves only virtual exchanges, virtual interactions for students, for staff, and etc. In the case of impact, we are mainly focused on digital and soft skills development through what we are planning to do. And what we are planning to do in the near future is training for our teachers how to use digital tools, how to teach online, how to use artificial intelligence. What kind of skills do you need as a teacher in order to be accepting to these new technologies and use it? Because you should use it. Otherwise, you are out of the game. I'm sorry, you are past. Bye-bye. Another thing that we are doing also, online courses for soft and research and digital skills for our students. And through collaboration and communication, we try to promote peace within our countries and within our region, which is not the easiest one. Also, we are participating with our US colleagues, the US universities that we participate in COILS, Collaborative Online International Learnings. So we develop some joint activities that our classes, they are meeting. So you can bring virtual classes together in order to participate in joint activities. Either you are teaching physics, lasers, or let's say English as a teaching tool. So you can try and promote the multidisciplinary, to practice their languages within these kind of activities. You can promote and you can organize international events like international weeks. This is a picture of our last one that we were very happy that we have 4 Israeli universities by participating in this event. We organize this event in a targeted topics that we would like the market or what, you know, the demands of the market and the research demands. This is what this international week, it was for soft and digital skills. We are going to organize it later on, and also was a part of the Athena European University, and also is a part of our blended intensive programs that I will come later on. So these are events that you are bringing people to interact with the locals, and you know, the locals, they can realize the power of the network. Other events that we organize as internationalization at home, we organize together with some of the Israeli partners here and the people from our impact network, roundtable discussions like artificial intelligence, impact in higher education, how to collaborate with African universities. What does it mean internationalization for academics, for students? So there we shared with our experts the worries, the barriers that these people have in order to promote internationalization, what we are doing right now and we are learning. Elena is leading, you know, every Wednesday this technology, let's say, kind of online lecture for students and staff that we are bringing online in order to learn, and also a very nice event that our colleagues from Morocco, they have organized before 2 weeks, artificial intelligence and engineering education. So people are getting exposed, they practice their language, they share knowledge through these internationalization at home activities. More than this, also, as I told you, it's not only education, it's research. So the last 3 years, we have organized more than 110 Athena talks where we are calling world experts in research, not within our network, but beyond, in order to network our researchers and also motivate the young research students from innovators. So this is a part of the Athena talks. We have started last week with 2D materials with a speaker from Indian Institute of Technology. We have speakers from very big US universities like MIT, Stanford, but also from very big also European universities. We organize the Athena Alumni Talks that our alumni, they are speaking to our students for their experience working on abroad or what kind of opportunities they can find wherever they are working, and also bringing market stakeholders to speak with our students and staff how relevant is our curriculum and how internationalization of our curriculum can meet through collaboration the market needs. We have also addressed, you know, another internationalization activity with our partners on abroad, the Soft Skills Academy, where we are bringing people from industry, from market, in order to organize workshops and also lectures about the most wanted things that right now market is looking for, which is the soft skills. We have also developed through internationalization at home, even joint doctoral schools. We have this one with EPFL in Lausanne, and together with Study in Israel for the last, during the COVID, we have developed this Soft Skills Academy and also bring people from employability, from the market. Another trend in the internationalization that Israelis and also other partner countries, they can participate are the blended intensive programs. These activities like to be more inclusive through internationalization. People that they hesitate to participate, they can start with online sessions, and then for 5 days they can come, they can travel to Europe in order to participate on the face-to-face activities. These are short internationalization activities. They are fully accredited, so the students, they receive the credit units that we have agreed. We sign bilateral agreements, learning agreements in order to organize them. We need at least 3 international partners in order to participate. Your countries, if we have participants from Israel and Morocco, you cannot be the coordinators, but you can participate with your own funds. Europe is working in order to include you through the funding support of our activities, but of course, internationalization, international credit mobility funds that we receive, they can be used in order for your students and staff to participate. We use new innovative topics and pedagogies. The main approach for this blended is like the challenge-based learning approach. So there's a project, workshops that the students are called to collaborate. And it's a part, as I say, of the inclusive internationalization to provide the first tip for the students and staff to see what is internationalization. Research has shown that the people that participate in blended intensive programs, they have higher chances in order to participate in more internationalization activities in education, research, and innovation. Other opportunities that you have, I'm providing examples of projects that I have participated with. These are two projects with Israel, national projects in innovative teaching education in mathematics, and also innovative photonics education and nanotechnology. These were opportunities that we have in order to attract funds. In the case of the IPEN, to create a curriculum regarding nanotechnology and photonic processes with Technion, Weizmann, Samun, Holon, Gordon College, Ben Gurion Universities, Meital, and we have developed around 50 courses in English in this kind of advanced technologies. We have also developed some policies and some material regarding how to teach mathematics together with Holon, with Weizmann, and with another university in Jerusalem. I don't remember the name right now. Of course, we have the KA one, Hadass College. And also we have the international credit mobility that you can apply as an Israeli or a university from Morocco to collaborate with Europeans in order to set up joint courses, joint programs, international activities for the future. And also we have the Mundus courses, the Mundus joint master degrees that all of you can participate in collaboration with European partners in order to develop and have funding close to 6 million euros for the 4 years in order to develop some joint master degrees. In summary, what we have done through the internationalization in HMU involves all of the things that I have summarized to you, activities starting from research, education, and innovation. And you can see here, a summary of what we have done. So this is something that you should do. It helps you to bring and collaborate and attract funds and support the attraction of your university through the collaboration. And also, this can be summarized with the course catalog or whatever you are proposing and you are offering as a university. Of course, other activities that you can participate is a strategic partnership proposals, smaller proposals that all of you can participate beyond the capacity buildings. Strategic partnerships also is a topic that and a chance that you have if you are going to prove your specialization. These strategic partnership and cooperation partnership projects, they are not open directly for partner countries, but if you have a specific specialization that in Europe we don't have, you can participate in these projects. So we need to identify what is your unique things that Europeans, they don't have in order to justify your participation. In cooperation, in the capacity building projects, you can participate. In Horizon projects, you can participate, especially what I have presented to you, the twinning projects, that expertise comes from Israel to Europe or from Morocco to Europe or from wherever you are coming from. Also is a great opportunity for internationalization collaboration as a funding. So how can now artificial intelligence can support internationalization? First of all, you should think that can solve any problems. Any challenges that I presented to you can be solved through artificial intelligence and through technology. You can include online sessions in order to be more inclusive and provide equity. You can select courses that are already available in order to support and integrate them through your courses, MOOCs like EDX, Coursera, LinkedIn Learning, and also Impact as we are developing. We are going to promote this. You can facilitate the accreditation, the transferability using digital tools like microcredentials and blockchain. By the 15th of December, we are going to organize a roundtable discussion with experts how to apply microcredentials and blockchain, and you are going to be involved and you are going to be invited, and also collaboration through virtual classrooms. You can bring people, you can bring teachers in order to teach and give another dimension to your course. Now, artificial intelligence, now more particularly, personalized education, even though that I have some questions on this, but I cannot ask myself now. Enhanced language support and translation services, personalized experiences I mentioned, global talent acquisition. You can see how much things ChatGPT can do. You can attract, and this is what we are like to do, to attract talents, in our laboratories, in our university, using virtual reality and augmented reality to interact online. And this also is a part of the inclusion and the interaction, cultural adaptation and integration. We can develop through online versions how to think like a Greek, that I suggest to you to have. I know how to collaborate through the years with Israelis. I'm not going to give you the tips. Data-driven decision-making for global statements, improved research collaboration through, virtual laboratories, which are part of the training of these distributed research laboratories that I showed to you, automated administrative and assessment processes, of course, enhanced marketing and outreach, real-time feedback. We are going to have the chance to listen Elena on Wednesday about chatbox. I read it, yesterday, and I don't know anything. And with this, I would like to thank you and for your attention. I would like to keep two things: that internationalization is a culture, is a great opportunity for yourself in order to promote your career, to enhance your network. Through these activities, you are going to promote yourself through your universities because you are doing something with impact for your university. Not only money, networking, reputation, ranking, and collaboration. With this, I would like to thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Wow, thank you so much. So many ideas, great projects.
I'm not going to share them because of the ChatGPT, so don't ask me questions.
Questions from the audience?
Claudio, I would like to answer Claudio from the previous one.
Okay.
So Claudio asked how ChatGPT can degrade the collaboration of students when they work in a team. Do I remember well, Claudio?
Yes.
So the best thing is like presentation. Whenever you have a teamwork, make them to present. The first thing, if they participate equally, this is a good indication that all of them, they have contributed. And then ask questions. So this is what we are doing. If someone does not know it, does not participate in the group presentation, this is like an alert.
Thank you.
Yes,
Tatiana?
Tatiana is raising.
We have a moderator. I use this role, that's why. So Elena, the floor is yours.
No, it's okay. We can collaborate on that too. So we have Sola. Did you want to ask a question here? And then Tatiana?
Yes. I have a question for the presenters. I just want to thank organizers of these programs. So for the internationalization of the higher education, for just who are just presented as a paper and research on that topic, there's an area that I want us to look at in the area of the mobility and the curriculum harmonizations. There's a discrepancy in the issue of the grading system, especially from the developing nation to the Western world. This has hampered the issue of the mobility of the aspirants from the developing nation to moving to the Western world. In this case study of the US and the Canada, the Northern American, when in terms of the grading system, and it has occurred that the foreign student has referred to the private organization like a world evaluation to assess their credentials to match if it is fit with the grading systems of that institutions. And then this area has been jeopardizing and they end down the mobility of the developing nation to migrate to the Western world to further their education. So I don't know if there's any research and if there's any effort in the harmonizing the curriculum, which would have equivalent in the grading system, just to enhance the mobility of the student from the developing nation to the Western world. This is my area of interest, and this is my question for the presenters.
My friend Sola, I'm used, of a short sentences. So, I have lost, the question. I tried, I capture a few words, and I think that your question is like regarding the accreditation of students when they follow courses on abroad. This is your question?
Yes, it's in line with that. It's in line.
Right. Glad. but I got it. So my answer is the following: before you start any kind of international mobility, any kind of internationalization project, first of all, you should define the goals. So if the goal of your collaboration, let's say with us, is like your students to come through internationalization, let's say credit mobility 171 to study, we should have identified the courses, which means not only the title, but the learning outcomes and the content that matches with the course that they follow back to your university. So before we start any kind of mobilities, we should sign the learning agreement that secures the accreditation of the course that we offer back home. And the accreditation should check the content, the learning outcomes, and of course, the working load. In the case that the working load of the course that we offer does not match with the working load of what do you offer, in case that we offer less, let's say, credit units compared to the credit units that you use, you have to agree with your students that they are going to have some extra examination. Now, how do you convert ECTS to your units? This is something that we should agree during the before we sign the learning agreement. So there are no, let's say, direct tables that correspond, ECTS with, let's say, with the credit units that you use. I don't know, probably you are in Africa, in Africa or in Morocco. We need to justify based on the working load, what are these conversions? So before we start and before we sign learning agreement, we need to have this agreement in order to have this accreditation. When we sign the learning agreement, this is a contract. This means that both of us, we have agreed with what do we offer. Did I answer?
Yes, that makes sense. That's good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. And then we have also Alicia.
Hi, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, Tatiana.
I have my wife that waits for me, so I will stay, 7 minutes more.
I will be short, Costas. I just want to actually confirm one of the activities that you presented. So the Soft Academy and the BIP following that, and the 10th and the second week of internationalization and exchange in Hainan. I was participating last year with first 10 students on site. They were, I believe, 7 or 8 students. And this year in this course, we have 3 times so many students because this is a selective course, because they expect that we will do the similar things. They were really impressed, and they like this opportunity, as you pointed out already, that they are going for a shorter time from different reasons. In our case, it was mostly that they are also working or that they want to be so long away from home. So this is what was an excellent experience, as well as for me, even that I'm quite long in this business as well. And I'm looking forward for the next season of Soft Academy. Thank you.
We're going to start, from to contact you. Thank you very much, Tatiana, from next week in order to set up, a meeting for this. And I hope that through KA 171 that we're expecting the results in order to include more partners, also from the Impact Network. We're expecting the results at the end of this week to have the funding also from Israeli, Morocco, to come to travel to Crete and participate in this event.
Thank you, Alice. Alice is next, and then Nava. Yeah. Alice from Open University.
I cannot hear.
We can't
See
hear
that
you.
someone speaks. I can read her lips, but I'm not sure.
We can't hear the sound, unfortunately.
Adelaide, you're laughing, eh?
Okay, so let's give a floor to Nava and then come back to you. Maybe you can type your question in the chat in the meantime. Yes, Nava?
Hi, Costas. First of all, yes, I'm here to testify that internationalism works. but also there are challenges. So what you presented is the potential, but we need to also remember the hazards, the pitfalls, and to be very careful. And it starts, like you mentioned, to Sola, at the planning stage, that it needs to be very carefully planned, and also some kind of agreement on how we are going to operate. Some of the challenges are not only within the teachers, some of the challenges are also within the students. And how I wanted to ask you, how can we make the students, on the one hand, more confident on taking the part in this project, and on the other hand, how can we attract them to this besides going abroad? Like, what is the emphasis that we want to give to the students in participating? Because it's not easy, so it seems, for them to do that. So what is your advice?
Thank you very much, Kukla, for the question. And I would like to mention that, I had the transparency with all these challenges. And, students, of course, professors are not the only challenge. Students also is a challenge, and this has to do with their motivation to participate in something. So regarding students, in order to participate in internationalization activity, the first challenge is like, what benefit do they have? So we should offer something that is similar along their studies back in Holon, for example. So when I organize something in Crete, for example, should be very relevant with a course that they follow, or a part of the course that they follow back in Israel. And this does not apply only for the physical mobility, also for the online courses that we're going to offer through the impact. These online courses should be part of existing courses, or courses that they can be recognized as an optional course back in any university. Otherwise, the students, they will never participate. Second challenge, so if we have this relevance regarding the content of what we offer, to a course back to home university, this is the first obstacle. The second one, of course, is like to convince them that despite of the funding support that they receive in order to travel to another country is not for them to become a billionaires. It's like a funding support in order to enhance their curricula. And all the big companies, you are coming from a tech industry yourself, they would like to check, through the CV of any potential employer, mobilities, in order to show that you are able to work in Israel, in Morocco, in New York. This shows to a company that you have the mindset that you can be useful for them. You can go one day here, the next day in the other side of the planet. You have this kind of culture. So money should not be treated as a barrier, because this is also an obstacle. It should be treated as someone pays you in order to make your CV better. These are, the two things. So first of all, you should include activities that they are very relevant to the host university, so the students do not feel that they are missing their time, and also that the funding that they receive is some good guy that comes and in order, go there, you follow part of your studies there, and at the same time you make your CV stronger and you are becoming more attractive for the market stakeholders. This is like what, but I would like to highlight now that academics plays a key role on this, because this information comes from us. So if we have the mindset to encourage the students to participate, the students then they will participate. If we don't provide the information, or we are like, oh, don't go out of the comfort zone because you are going to miss your time, because there are academics that they say this, then the students, they will follow, unfortunately, our way. Another challenge depends on the countries, or is the academic calendar, how the academic calendar fits in order to make this. So you should also agree this beforehand, that what we are going to organize is going to be in this period. And other issues mainly related, let's say, to your case in Israel, that you have mature students that they are working at the same time, they have a family, which is an extra challenge, but this is like more particular to the countries. For example, in Africa, the people, they would like to travel, but they have visa issues. So this is another challenge. So you can see challenges, per nation. But the main one is to organize things that they are relevant to their studies.
Okay, thank you very much, Kostas. Can I add a sentence and move on to the last question, and then we close? So I think that this is key what you said, that in order for students to understand their own motivation, maybe to discover their own motivation to be more involved in internationalization activities of their universities or colleges, this is our job, again, as faculty, as the international centers, and even maybe on an institutional level. It has to be a strategic approach where institution highlights and packages this, and in a way, sells this to students. What are the benefits? Because they will not think of the benefits themselves. There will be few, but really few. We want more inclusive internationalization and more students to be involved. And for that, this needs to be really, really clear to them. So maybe also to link to the previous session where we can ask ChatGPT maybe to help us, create those marketing materials and guidelines and put it in the language that speaks to students, that students can really see the value in internationalization for their own employability, improvement. Now, Alyssa sent us a question in the chat because she couldn't speak, but I also think it links to the last question, is how to actually, if you have some tips to get the academic faculty more involved in internationalization.
This is a very good question and something that bothers us, as I told you, the last 2 weeks, and we're going to try to start this discussion in December where we have the National Rectors meeting in Greece. We would like to place some thresholds, Alessia, for the promotion and the professional development of academics. Research, we have this kind of measures. How many papers, how many citations, how many grants you are going to bring. There are some things that we can quantify. However, there are no such rules about education and internationalization. So because my topic is internationalization, I would like to promote, and I would like to have the support from the Greek ministry, but also from the Greek rectors, to have some threshold regarding internationalization action. For example, if someone would like to get promoted from associate professor to a full professor, at least he should have demonstrated, some teaching hours, through internationalization to another university. He or she should demonstrate the attraction of some budget through internationalization projects, either is Erasmus or is research, and also the participation and the organization of some internationalization actions at home. So we would like to place some thresholds, and without reaching this minimum, this threshold, as I used to say, you cannot apply for promotion. Because internationalization is a priority right now for the European higher education era. It's a priority of the Greek universities. I think it's a priority of all the universities all over the world. So we should motivate the academics to participate. And I think by placing this minimum, these thresholds, is a good policy step in order to promote internationalization and the involvement and the engagement of professors as they are getting involved in publications in order to support this. This is my answer. If I have not answered to you, I can
Thank you. I think my microphone is right now. Thank you so much. Very interesting.
Yeah. Thank you.
I did not say you everything because of ChatGPT, but some of them. I'm kidding.
Okay, so we hope that you succeed in this initiative, Kostas. Keep us posted, and maybe we can then make a bigger impact and take the Greek initiative of integrating this into, promotional track for faculty. It needs to be adopted worldwide, I guess. For internationalization to work, it needs to become internationally, globally accepted practices. So thank you very, very much.
I will say, Elena, finally, I will say that, all of you that you participate in this, the last 3 hours of this very interesting, discussion, you are part of Impact, because Impact provides this flexibility. It's an online project. Everything happens virtually, and through the virtual interactions that we are going to have, we are going to learn each other better. We are going to learn who are going to be our potential and future partners for more internationalization activities that they are going to take place. So participate in the virtual exchange Impact. There's no cost, only opportunities for you to network, learn each other, and submit new proposals. This is, it's up to us, engagement. If you don't engage, watch TV on your sofa. It's very nice. Champions League.
Let me say a word. Thanks a lot for this wonderful get together on Impact. I reached out to our partners in India, sent without telling you, and I'm sorry for that. Sent the link. They joined. They're very thrilled. And we're very happy joining us. They couldn't ask questions. Next time maybe they'll do, and they'll have some input in our next getting together. So thanks everybody from here, from Morocco, Timken Foundation. We found this very great. Thanks, Elena. Thanks, Costas, too.
Thank you.
Ladies first, eh? You are such a thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you very much. Thank you for the speakers, Sam and Costas, and thank you for all of you who stayed up until now, three hours, almost 40 people still. So great. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day, and I'll keep you posted with the recording of this session, and you can send us your questions if you have, and please fill out the feedback form we sent you in the chat. We can resend again. We will send it to you also in the email. And if you're interested to play with AI, again, this is another interactive initiative of Impact. Join us every Wednesday. We're discovering different AI tools together, playing with them, logging in, testing them, and discussing their pedagogical applications. So you are welcome to join us. Thank you very much. And goodbye.
Bye. Stay safe. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye.